check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and become the podcast. That doesn't seem fair.
So that's Wanda, right? Wanda Maximoff.
Now, here's the thing. Looking at the quotes page for this movie, which, let me just check my notes here, is called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
He's in it.
This is a movie where if you look at a quotes page, even having seen the film twice, all of this reads like gobbledygook.
Right. It's Greek.
Yes. Here are some quotes here. Baron Mordo, careful, Stephen. This path exacts a heavy toll. Okay?
Sure. He says that pretty Chiwetel, though. This path exacts a heavy toll. You know, he puts a little butter on that one.
Reasonable line, right? Here's another one. Black Bolt, I'm sorry. Now, the context in the movie is very different.
I'm sorry. It's all loud.
But when it's just written like that, Black Bolt, I'm sorry. How about this one? Scarlet Witch, and then brackets, sees Zombie Strange. Dream walking, you hypocrite.
These are great quotes.
I gotta say, I've been wondering for the past, I don't know, month at this point, what you were gonna do.
I
had two guesses.
Okay,
and you didn't do either.
Okay, what were your two?
I thought the one that in the movie when I saw
Sure.
it, I was like, I bet Griffin's gonna do this. Was the line is this time it's gonna take more than killing me to kill me.
That's
Great
the best
line.
line in the movie.
A great line.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to fucking butcher that one with podcast. This time
More
it's gonna
than
take more than
podcasting me to
podcasting
podcast
me. Yeah, at that point though, does it sound like anything?
I think Rachel McAdams nails the sort of like go back to hell line, but again, that doesn't really translate into your
podcast
ridiculous...
back to hell, and you could tie it into the title of the
that's true.
miniseries.
This
That's
is
a
another
good
one where
point.
I just think this was transcribed poorly. Like the way this, not to note fucking IMDb quote submission artists, okay? Captain Carter, I could do this all day. Underneath, gets bisected by her own shield.
Good moment.
Just rude. But rude. Just like,
Just
give
to
her the
spoil
fucking
it?
quote.
I'll give her the quote.
Yeah, don't undercut it.
Well, she does get bisected by her own shield, though.
That's pretty funny.
It's
Spoiler
true.
alert
Yes.
for
The biggest movie of the year.
A
Oh, no.
multiverse character in the biggest movie. Well, no, it's no longer the
it's
biggest
now-
movie of the year.
As in, we have delayed this episode so long that it's no longer the biggest movie
Yeah,
of the
Well,
year.
I was going to say, I don't remember a damn thing about this movie.
You saw it
Okay.
maybe 3 weeks ago?
Yes, you have to remind me as
I've
we
seen
go
it
along.
twice, and even I remember the movie.
We've
Yes.
I
and
also
even
seen
I
it
am like,
twice.
"Ooh, right. Some of the details.
This
a
was
little
another
fuzzy."
thing where
I remember he's very funny.
we had a couple delays, couple cases of the vid,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, call us Kid Vid.
Call us Kid Vids. And yes, there were a couple delays. Not in the scheduling of this episode, coming out, hitting your ears, just in time for the Disney Plus launch. A thing that still just feels strange every time they tweet out like
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange will be on Disney Plus in 15 days,
Yes.
and you're like,
Yeah.
isn't that movie number 2 at the box office?
Aren't you just taking money away from
Yeah,
yourself?
what the fuck are you talking about? But also, they're kind of right. Like the life cycle of the movie is sort of like, I guess it's pretty much it made its fucking $400 million very quickly and it's done.
Well, yes, but I think that is not indicative of Marvel, how Marvel movies do universally. I
No.
actually think it's indicative of general unhappiness with this movie.
I think so too.
From Marvel fans.
I think so too. Like I think Shang-Chi had more
Yes.
lifeblood at the box office by the point they put it on
Again,
Disney Plus.
Not that this movie has done poorly in any sense. Obviously, it is
big hit.
a big money-grossing hit, especially when you consider that it's a Doctor Strange sequel.
Yes.
About the multiverse.
Yeah.
A thing that would have sounded ludicrous.
Right.
Even a few years ago,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Just another wild
It's
thing.
made like double what Doctor Strange made, right? Like,
Doctor
it-
Strange
it did
1
well.
overperformed. It did like 270 domestic.
and we were
find out.
all having to deal with like the election happening like at
Yes.
the same time. So
It was
Right.
it
impressive.
was one of those. I saw it right around when Trump got elected movies.
He's also a friggin'
Doctor Strange
wizard,
made
which is kind of
230
corny.
232, Griffin.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Worldwide number?
676.
Okay.
But not the 1 billion that Doctor Strange will
No,
make.
I do remember feeling though, and
Strange
then fucking Black Panther comes out, and Captain Marvel crushes this as well. But it was like that was pretty high for a first movie. At that point, it was sort of like
it's true. Not just the first movie though.
Doctor
Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right.
It just was not one of those things where you
No.
were like, "This is a home run."
I mean, that felt like they got like Doctor Strange to me felt like the real sign of like, oh, Marvel has become such a thing that even this is going to be a colossal hit,
Look.
which general people, like normal people, shouldn't care about at all.
Look, let me say up a couple of things. This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I do.
It's a podcast about filmographies. David was very fast and very on it, and he was looking for me to compliment him and tell him he did a good job.
I'm more like trying to see how abstract my "I'm David" can sound at a certain point.
Yeah.
It could just sort of sound like a weird, like alien noise.
It's like how my father's signature over years has morphed into just a line.
right.
He just kept on simplifying it to the point where it's literally just a line.
Now he's like some medieval peasant where it's like, make your mark here on the paper. He just sort of like makes a line.
Right. My mother, by the way, signs checks at restaurants with a fucking family crest.
Sure, with a quill.
Wax up her fucking ring. It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career, say an Evil Dead trilogy,
Sure.
and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion products they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce it to the multiverse, baby.
Yep. Yeah,
This
true.
has been a miniseries on the films of Sam Raimi. We're
Sure
saying
has.
goodbye.
We are. A delayed goodbye.
A delayed goodbye,
We've already moved on to the other series, but this is that one thing
which
had
we've
to
announced. We've
pin down.
circled around to Fosse. This was the one we kept on struggling to schedule. And the miniseries has been called Podcast Me to Hell.
Mhm.
Today we're talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Our guest today is Patrick Willems,
That's right.
Hello.
the Patrick H. Willems YouTube channel, but also director of the new film just premiering on Nebula, Night of the Coconut.
Thank you. Great
Another
plug.
way in which this fucking
It's
timed out
it's
well.
actually what's the actual date of its premiere?
Well,
like-
it as of our recording, it
Yes.
comes out in 2 days, and so it'll be out when this episode
Okay,
drops.
fine. But it
It's a
recently
week.
premiered.
Yes.
And look in the description. There'll be a link so you can
Fucking
watch.
link.
Hell
There
yeah.
sure will.
Getting that BC bump.
That's what I'm saying. I love it when we do that.
I love it. Because it was
Makes
like,
me feel
oh,
useful.
fuck, this thing timed out. Doctor Strange episode's coming out 6 weeks after the movie comes out. Will anyone give a shit? And you're like, oh, Disney Plus,
Yeah.
Patrick's fucking movie. Everything works out great. All of this to say, Patrick had a premiere last night. I got too drunk, and we did karaoke. My voice is gone.
Griffin and I were out until about 4 a.m.
Yeah, Patrick.
Griffin and I were out until 4 a.m. I would say I woke up today around 5 a.m. So like there was a 1 hour window of you guys sleeping and me sleeping.
That's you assuming that I got to sleep
Well,
by 5
that's
a.m.
another good point, right?
It was hard to turn the brain off last night. I could have swung by and woken you up. I could have tickled you.
Don't think I would have appreciated that.
Really?
No.
But I had to introduce you. I had to set up a podcast because I want to bring this up.
Okay.
Yes.
You did a video. You do there's a video series. I'd say it's sort of unofficial series you've done where you will take your parents to see the latest entry of a franchise where they have no familiarity
Like
with any
Fast and
previous.
Furious.
These
or
are like
whatever.
Patreon
Right.
goals.
Right.
And so we did 2. We did one for Avengers Endgame.
Yes,
I think they had seen Iron Man 1, and we skipped
Okay.
to that. And then we did F9.
and they hadn't seen anything.
They
Right?
now, I will say, shout out to my parents. On their own, they went back and watched the first 8.
Fucking cool.
That's great.
Now the Endgame video, you're sort of talking with your parents and going like, "What do you know?" Right? You always do this thing of like, "I just want to test you."
Through cultural osmosis,
Right.
right? What's reached you.
And
Yeah.
you have that thing that's kind of sweet where your dad reveals that he was like more of a Marvel fan growing up than you ever kind of knew.
Mm.
Yeah.
And,
Was he just one of those guys where it's like he gets older and he put childish things away or whatever? He
I
didn't
think his
return
thing.
comic
I think he
books,
like
right.
went to college,
Right.
you know, in the 70s, and is like, I don't know, I want to play sports and do drugs, and
Yeah,
so
because my mom read comics all the time when she was a teen. But
Right.
like she never went return to it, so
No.
it's just
and
vestigial.
by the way,
Right.
also never had any impulse to go see the movie
No,
of these things decades later.
No.
Like my father bragged to me once about the fact that he was like, he showed me a college photo from his fucking college yearbook and he had a Spider-Man shirt. And he was like, and that was cool at the time. People weren't wearing shirts with things on them. And I was like,
graphic tees, the hot new thing.
You know, Tim Conway in 30 Rock is like, shirts didn't have words on them back then. I think about that joke all the time.
this is truly what my father said to me. But I was like, you have any affinity for Spider-Man at any point in your life? So you're like asking your dad, and it's like, what characters do you know? He's like, Spider-Man. You know, he's like, listen to the obvious things.
Sure.
And then he was like, Doctor Strange. I fucking love Doctor Strange. And your dad outs himself as this like hardcore. He's like, that was the one I really liked as a
yeah.
kid.
Was
And start remembering deep cut shit.
Was your dad, a child of the 60s? Because Doctor Strange was a bit of a sort of cool countercultural
I mean,
thing,
that is
you know?
100% the thing.
That's what it was speaking to,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, my dad,
Yes, Ben,
like,
I'm being serious.
I did not. Wait, I'm so surprised.
Patrick, finish your thought, and then I
Please,
can
yeah.
give
Yeah.
Ben a little
Oh, yeah.
context. Sure.
But yeah, my dad was like he grew up in like Long Island in like the
Sure.
like 60s and stuff like that. And like, then like, went off to Oberlin, like grew long hair and
Yeah.
a mustache and all those things. And yeah, it's like obviously the guy he would be into is just like the psychedelic guy.
Right.
And just the thing is like, you read the Lee Ditko stuff and
Yeah.
it's basically that like
Which is really worth reading and
it's-
really, really good.
it's really fun. There's like one like omnibus that collects the whole
Yes,
run.
it
And what's
wasn't
fun
long.
about that is back then, for a very long time, comics were just very episodic. It's like
Mhm.
each issue self-contained story. And the Lee Ditko run is clearly the one where Ditko just like absolutely did whatever the fuck he wanted and did a like 20-part serialized story. Like every issue, it just like it just continues in one long like journey around the world. And it's just an excuse to like go into your dimension, have a bunch of shapes
Sure.
just like
Loves
mushed
his
up against
shapes.
each other. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not just that, but he builds out this sort of bananas, quasi spiritual canon where he's just mixing up, psychedelia and Eastern mysticism and Egyptian stuff,
Yes,
like Sumerian
yes.
stuff, right? You mix it all together and you make this weird mythology.
Right.
And because no one fucking read Doctor Strange,
He
or
didn't even
not
have his own
as
series.
many,
It was just
he could kinda
Strange
get away with
Tales.
it. Yeah.
That was the thing with all those old issues. It's like it's Strange Tales, and half the issue with Doctor Strange, half of it is like Nick Fury, Agent of
Sure,
Shield.
sure.
And like Roy Thomas talks about how like, people come up and be like, man, do you guys like do all kinds of like LSD and mushrooms? And they'd be like, what? No, we don't do any of that. But like everyone
Right.
reading them was like, these guys must be whacked
Fucking
out of
dude
their
turned
heads,
on, man.
Damn. All right. I have a new appreciation for Doctor Strange.
Look, we're gonna get into
Doctor
this.
Strange and Silver Surfer, I
Yeah,
would say, are
actually-
the
of course,
two
yeah.
sort of
Ben likes
psychedelic
Silver Surfer.
heroes.
I will say,
right.
in terms of Ben's, have any of you guys read the Sean Howe book, Marvel Comics: The Untold Story?
No.
Like it is. It's the best. It just like going through like basically oral history of the whole history of like Marvel from the 30s to
Yeah.
today. But the sections on like the 60s section is basically just like they should just make it a TV show. It's just Mad Men, but they're making comics. And then but the 70s stuff is fun because it talks about you've got these guys like Jim Starlin, the guy doing like the cosmic stuff, and they'd just be like, yeah, we would just like walk around. We would just like take LSD, walk around Manhattan at like 4 a.m., just generate a bunch of ideas. Like Ditko, totally straight edge.
Right.
The
Right,
other guys
yeah.
that came in afterwards, they were really going for it.
Right.
And so I think, Ben, that's your jam.
Well, it's
Yeah,
funny.
I gotta check this stuff
Like
out.
Adam Warlock
But
and
even
that
so-
stuff.
Adam Warlock,
like-
right? All that cosmic shit.
Yes. It's just funny. I truly think your father is the only person I have ever witnessed in any form saying Doctor Strange was my favorite as a kid. Right? It's
Yep.
just a thing that like you never fucking hear.
Sure.
And especially like Doctor Strange is one of the only Marvel characters of that tier, arguably, who didn't get his own fucking animated series in the 70s or the 90s.
No
yeah,
theme
there's only
song.
that really weird TV movie, right? I
Yes.
think that's about it.
Live action TV movie.
I mean, he would like, he might pop up on a Spider-Man
I'm
or
sure
something, right? Like
he did.
he'd make a guest
But
spot.
it was just like they were going like fucking Ghost Rider, Silver Surfer's got his own show, Fantastic Four have their own show, Spider, like everyone. Doctor Strange was just never in that fucking.
I will say, I
rotation.
remember, Griffin, to bring up your favorite topic, toys.
Yes.
When I was a kid, like, 90s Spider-Man, Fox Kids cartoon,
Mhm.
I think Doctor Strange is in one episode, and I had the action figure of Doctor Strange from like the Spider-Man animated
Okay,
line,
yeah.
and it was a really good figure, and he had a cool like rubber cape that you could bend into poses.
Cool. But yes, it's like right. He's in like one episode. It certainly felt like every other character that Marvel had tested at that point of being the titular role was either like has some notability or looks fucking cool.
Sure.
Or like even Ant-Man, where everyone was like, "Now they're scraping the barrel." You're like, Ant-Man exists as at least like a fucking joke.
But also, Ant-Man has a power that we all love, right? We've
Very
all
easy to
loved
understand.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Right, you're just
We
And he
like
was an
Big and
Avenger.
Small.
Yes.
And he was an original
Right.
Avenger.
The Doctor Strange thing absolutely felt like, is this breaking point? I remember saying to you, we saw the trailer, David, in front of some fucking movie.
The trailer for the first movie was sort of self-serious, like teach
Right.
me,
Right.
all that.
And the final
yeah.
like money shot of the trailer was him standing in front of the fucking window with the cape.
Right.
And I said, I can't believe that's the money shot that they
Right,
put in
that's-
like it's a
that's
mic
supposed
drop.
to get the fans going. Whoop, whoop,
Right.
whoop, he's got the cape. He's got the window.
And it fucking worked. It was a hit. And it only is when you step back and go like, oh, obviously fucking COVID and director switch over and everything. 6 years in between those two movies.
Yes, although he has appeared in
3 other films.
no more than that.
4?
4, because he's in Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
Remember, he
Jesus.
gives him a big beer.
Yes.
And he has the gloves
It's
on.
the
in that
one with the gloves.
Yeah.
It's the one with the gloves, and then he's in both Avengers
Yes.
films, and then he's in Spider-Man: No Way Home in a very seamless and smoothly integrated appearance.
Right.
That doesn't feel like them being like, I don't fucking know.
One of the things about this fucking movie is it like has to be a Doctor Strange sequel. It has to be a No Way Home sequel. It has to
bit.
be a WandaVision sequel.
That's the thing.
And to
It's
some
not really a No Way Home sequel at all.
I think
it really doesn't acknowledge it.
a little bit, right? Well, because I guess the order flipped of what was supposed to be.
There's just no discussion of No Way Home
Yeah.
at all,
Yes.
apart from the very vague, like, I'm aware of the multiverse. Like, that.
Right.
Yeah, he's like, I recently dabbled in
Right,
the
yeah.
multiverse.
Yeah. Do you know that? Because I fucking already complained about this thing in previous episodes. The
Okay.
thing in fucking No Way Home where Ned suddenly becomes the
Yes.
greatest sorcerer overnight because his grandmother fucking read a book once or some shit.
She's like what the grandma's like, our family's kind of magical or
Right.
whatever. Yes, yeah.
That was supposed to be fucking America Chavez. That was the entire point. Was
She was gonna be
this
in
movie
that.
ends? She's in training. And then in the next movie, it's like, we need help. We have to open portals, find Peter Parker.
Right.
They
she
go
was gonna
to-
pop up.
Yeah, because she fucking opens portals.
Who cares?
Who fucking cares?
There's got to be an easier way to make these movies.
Yes.
$1 billion can't be wrong, right? I mean, that's what they would always say. But yes, I would love to know, and it would just be for my personal enjoyment,
Mhm.
what on earth happened. And I'm sure COVID is to blame, and I'm sure the vagaries of actor scheduling
Yes.
and all this stuff is to blame.
The Spider-Man thing also like the
How they had to-
Sony
right,
license
the Sony
is there
thing
has
where
to
they
be a
have
film
to
every
release the movie, but how to untangle the weird chronology of this Spider-Man and WandaVision.
Yes.
Which in my head should just play in a different order, and I think maybe was initially planned to.
It
Like
feels
it should go. Sorry, let me get this right. This Spider-Man or this, and then WandaVision should come after.
Correct.
this. And it's the biggest problem with this movie in an MCU sense.
Yes.
It is not a problem with this movie if you are just sitting down to watch a fun sci-fi horror movie, in my opinion, or fantasy horror movie.
Yes.
But if in the larger sense of like, why is Wanda behaving this way? It would just make a lot more sense if WandaVision is her reaction to this.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. She's looking for Vision in other universes,
Yes.
and then she fucking makes her own
And
reality
that's
with
when
the
she
kids.
fully does the full break from reality. I
Right.
am going to create my own universe rather than this being WandaVision being in between Endgame and this.
Right. Look, it is the single biggest issue with this movie. Is like this feels like
I don't think it's an issue with this movie. I think it's an issue with the MCU.
I
I don't.
it's-
It doesn't
I
really
think it's
bother me with
both.
this movie. Sure.
I think.
I
it's
mean, you have
both.
to say both, I guess, because this is
Right.
part of a 24 film series.
But
So yes,
I do
plus
think
TV shows.
This
yes.
is very much a moment that exposes what you're saying of like there has to be a fucking better way to make these movies, and it's one of those things where it's just like COVID fucked up everything.
It did. It did.
And it
Right,
makes
'cause
it
it's like
so clear where
WandaVision
you're
wasn't
like,
even going to be the first show to come out, right?
Correct.
And
It
that got-
wasn't. It was going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, which would have been a
Right.
sizzling way to kick it off.
right. And I think
yeah.
they fucking God, what was the problem?
I don't know, but
I
the
think it was
WandaVision came
because they
first
didn't
for
want to
it.
introduce Julia Louis-Dreyfus until after Black Widow came out, but then that ended up getting flipped as
That
well.
may have been part of the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we're saying, we just sound like addled fools.
Lunatics.
No,
and it's
I will second that.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Ben, do you think this is
And-
interesting?
Do I think this is interesting?
Ben,
Yeah.
Let's
have
keep
you
going.
seen WandaVision?
No,
Have you seen did you see Spider-Man: No Way Home?
I did on a plane.
You saw it on
Okay,
a plane, and
okay.
you saw this film
In theaters.
I saw it in theaters. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I just remembered. I have a story about my theater going
Oh,
experience.
boy.
Did Doctor Strange appear?
I yelled at someone.
Oh, who? Doctor Strange?
Teens.
Teens?
Youths?
Yeah.
Youths.
Oh my god.
What were they doing?
All right. So here's the deal. Okay.
Were they
I'm going-
SBs?
Yeah.
They were sneakies? Uh-oh.
I'm going to the theater. It's like a Tuesday. It's like pretty deep into the run of
Okay.
the movie.
Humble
Yeah,
brag.
but this is a bad sign, right? This is where you might get a rowdier, group, not an
Yeah.
audience, but
Yeah.
a few kids who are just here to hang.
Now I'm in the process of quitting smoking cigarettes, so I'm a little on edge.
Okay.
I'm a little on edge.
Ben's getting very animated as he's telling
and
this story.
so I go to Williamsburg Cinema, which can
Yeah,
be
sure.
a hit or miss
Uh-huh.
kind of experience.
Yeah, it's kind of just no frills, movie house.
Mhm.
There's no food to be eaten there. There's no, reclining seats or anything like that. It's a movie place.
Sure,
They
sure.
show the movie.
I sit, and unfortunately, then shortly thereafter, 3 15-year-olds sit right behind me.
Mm.
Cool.
They start with the plastic bag of candy, loose candy they have or something. They're going about with that and they're whispering to each other. And it's fine. I'm not like the kind of person where I want to feel like an old guy shaking my fist at kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But at some point they just started talking actually about oh yeah, WandaVision. Did you watch
Oh,
the show?
they're just
They're just talking
right,
at
sifting
some point.
through
And-
Marvel lore.
Yeah, I listen, I don't know how we can debate this. I lost it and I said, shut the fuck up.
Oh,
Wow.
You went right there.
Here's the thing. Everyone else in the theater then also got scared. And it's there was a guy
Scared of you?
Yeah. There was a guy kind of near them who had been eating candy and all of a sudden he slowed down him grabbing the chocolate covered almonds or whatever he had.
Right.
I felt so bad.
So
bad.
you were just a little on edge from the smoking, and of course you were so scared of the multiverse.
Yes,
of
I
madness.
was. And I needed to really take it in.
Yeah, that's right. It was sort of a work assignment
Right.
for you,
Right.
But
Yeah.
here, all right, and I'll leave it to you guys because I don't want to take too much more time with this.
Uh-huh.
Other than I just think sometimes people, when they're talking at theaters, they need to get yelled at.
Yes.
And I probably went a little too
You
far.
might have had a Will
I think
Smith
you
size.
gotta first do the hey, can you be quiet, or hey,
Sorry,
can
I'm
you
trying to
stop
watch the
talking?
movie. Yeah.
And then if things don't
He
change,
skipped the
then
first
maybe
5
you can be like,
steps.
hey,
Right.
No,
you be a
I
little
just saw
louder.
red.
Yeah.
I did apologize to them afterwards, and at least I said I'm sorry.
Okay.
And what'd they say?
For overreacting. They just looked at their shoes and said, and just walked away.
But they did shut up.
Don't talk to me.
Have you
do not
watched
perceive me.
WandaVision?
I think WandaVision would make more sense after this movie. They start
Shut the
on that.
fuck up.
David?
Yeah.
I've heard of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
You have.
I've heard of that movie that we're talking about today for several hours. But Dr. Stamps and the Multiverse of Saving Time and Money?
Wow. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right?
Look, when you're running a small business, every second counts. You can't afford to waste a single moment
No.
in any verse.
No. That's what Stamps.com is like America Chavez punching a star-shaped hole in the universe and plummeting you into an alternate universe where you have extra time.
But unlike America Chavez, it has total control over its powers because for
Right.
more than 20 years, it's been indispensable for over 1 million businesses.
Right. It's only sending you to universes where you don't have to wait in line at the post office.
Exactly. It gives you access to all the post office and UPS shipping services you need right from your computer, which is, that is kind of like a magic power. It's true.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. Computers are magical.
Right. And there's discounts that you can't find anywhere else, like up to 30% off USPS rates and 86% off UPS.
Hey, that's not nothing.
And you don't need a sling ring. All you need is your regular computer and printer. No special supplies or equipment.
What if I had a sling ring?
That'd be pretty cool. Well, then obviously, you'd be able to cast spells so that people forget who Spider-Man is. But would you be able to print official postage from any letter package anywhere you want to send? And would it seamlessly work with Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and more?
No, David, not even Master Sorcerer Ned Leeds could pull off such a thing.
that makes sense because I just need to tell you to stop wasting time and start saving money when you use Stamps.com to mail and ship. Sign up with promo code CHECK for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale. There's no long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code CHECK.
Stamps.com. That's it. Bye. I feel like force majeure global events, right, finally sort of like cast a wind across the house of cards that Feige's been so carefully assembling. The puzzle pieces of all this movie made all the more complicated by now the TV shows having to like fit in between these things.
Right.
And it does just sort of show like this movie feels a little bit like a real Jenga tower of like, do you maybe need to rethink this a little and start making these things a little more self-contained?
Or just slow down a little
Slow
bit.
down.
You know?
I mean, the thing that just is still so weird to me is that they made a Doctor Strange movie, 2016.
Yes.
And it was very successful.
Yeah.
And then Doctor Strange is a supporting character in 4 other movies.
Yes.
And then he finally gets a sequel, and he's a supporting character
Yes.
in his own movie, where basically he doesn't really get the emotional arc in the movie.
Not really. No.
I
I mean,
like,
he gets a very mild arc of sort of like,
You know,
right.
they set
you
it
need
up.
to get over Rachel McAdams, and I'm like, he does.
Yeah.
like, but whatever.
They
like
set
just
it
get,
up
let the guy
well.
let
Yeah.
the guy get a proper movie where he also I feel like they've I don't want to say totally cracked it, but they've gotten a little bit better at figuring out like how to like who is Cumberbatch Doctor Strange.
Yes. This is the
Look,
thing.
I think I'm more pro this movie than the two of you.
No, here's the thing. I am pro this movie,
Right.
but it is almost exclusively because of Sam Raimi
Mr.
directing
Sam
it,
Raimi.
as
Yes.
opposed to like the MCU of it all.
Yeah, I don't know that I can really be too pro MCU of late, even though I've enjoyed
Mhm.
movies like Shang-Chi and this,
Mhm.
because I'm with you, Griffin, where I'm sort of like, I don't really know what the plan is anymore. It
Yeah.
more feels like we'll do a movie, X person will be in it, we'll force some fucking thing in there to delight people. So the Illuminati thing sort of feels like that here, right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw this movie together for the first time, David.
We did. We went to the press screening for whatever.
Well, I'm not trying to show
like
off.
2 months ago. Now,
Yeah.
At this point.
And I was saying to you, like, the Raimi stuff is really good. I just get so fucking bummed out by the Marvel shoe leather. And your response was, I just don't even think about that stuff anymore. Like, you were sort of like, that's just white noise to me. I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean,
judging
like-
it based on how well it does that stuff or not, because all of that feels like jury duty.
I mean, right. Like, as a comic book fan, I'm always intrigued by it. But as a cinema fan, I
Right.
am not particularly. I'll say we all recently seen Jurassic World Dominion.
So I saw this a second time the day after I saw Dominion.
You've seen Dominion.
An interesting
You've
point of
entered
comparison.
Dominion.
I've interested.
You've been
Which is
entered
is in my opinion a very bad blockbuster. And
Yes.
a bad
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
But in Dominion, like in Doctor Strange, when it's time for the Illuminati to show up, you'd certainly feel them. You know, the script presses pause a little bit, and it's kind of. But in Dominion, it's even more egregious. How where it's it's time for an action sequence, and it's like, okay, pause. The dinosaur's gonna chase, and you're just sort of like, does this have anything to do with anything in the movie? It's like,
Yeah.
you like dinosaurs, don't you, you pig? Come on. He's just, look, it's chasing. You're enjoying this. And I'm like, this doesn't, it truly feels like the movie grinds to a halt for
Yes.
any action
Yes.
sequence. in
Yes.
Dominion.
No,
Right.
this movie feels to me like fucking Sam Raimi is the one in front of the subway car holding onto fucking 20 webs attached to
A
buildings.
little bit. Right.
Right?
And certainly there were reshoots and there's
Yeah.
all kinds of Jesus, what's going on with
And
this
he's
movie?
both
Right.
trying to fit into the demands of a Marvel movie and trying to make his own thing and
the weight of his
reactivate
first
his
film in
passion.
9 years.
Right,
you
right.
know,
Have another hit.
This is also what's so funny about it because you look at all the interviews that he does for this movie, and to be clear, this is the case in every interview he's ever done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But-
it's true. He is like this always.
He's
Right,
a good
but
salesman. Yeah.
People I was so excited he was finally back. So
Yeah.
many people were so excited, and and before the movie came out, I remember people on Twitter getting very nervous, because they'd just be sharing these clips of him talking. People would ask him so did you really try to put your own style into this, make it a
Right.
Sam Raimi movie? And he was just no, I'm just trying to make it a good, solid, crowd pleasing
my
chapter
job,
in the Marvel series, and just do another episode for them and make the fans happy. And it sounds like he just like went in trying to make it totally anonymously.
And that combined with all the reshoot stories and
Right.
shit,
You're like,
just
did
like,
Feige just squish him?
is this
and,
going to be Oz the Great and
And
Powerful?
then you're like, no, he's actually just being polite, like you know,
right.
in the interviews.
I mean,
Like,
because it's the same thing if you look at like 2002 interviews,
Right,
and
it was-
obviously Spider-Man is a Sam Raimi movie,
Yeah.
and every interview he's just like, no, I was just trying to like honor like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and
And he-
do what they would have done.
he seems embarrassed about his thing.
Yes.
Right? Like he never wants to acknowledge that he's like up to his old
I mean,
tricks.
JJ's been joking about it like for all these fucking months, but
Our
even as
researcher.
far back as Darkman, he's like, it was really time for me to just put the camera down
Right.
and
Take
step
my
back.
little box of tools and
Yeah.
put it under the
Yeah,
shelf.
just tell
like,
a good adult story.
Right. And then you watch the movie and you're like, what is he talking about? Like,
What a
and the
lunatic.
only ones where it's actually true are those,
Yeah.
you know, we this is the end of our miniseries, but we
Right.
talked about those mid-90s dramas. And like, he even, you know, he sounds like ashamed of himself in those press
Yes.
tours, right? Where he's like, I really want to grow up.
Right.
And now it's more back to the just like he's a nice guy in a suit who's like, well, Marvel's really a good enterprise and people have fun at them. And, you know, yeah.
But I
okay.
remember, Patrick, I think we were hanging out when the story broke. We went to see
Oh, okay.
some movie
No.
and then we were at Schnipper's afterwards.
Yes, I will say Griffin.
Ben laughing at Schnippers.
Schnippers, baby!
And look, when you see a
Just
movie,
like what a weird like fast food reference that no one's gonna get.
We were fucking seeing
Schnippers,
the
40th and 8th, baby.
Times Square movie.
excuse me,
Yes.
if you see a movie in New York
Yes.
at the AMC 25, you go to Schnippers
That's the
after
place
that.
to go.
That's
Then
what
you get
happens.
diarrhea.
Yeah,
But it's fun.
But
Schnippers
it's
will
fun
sometimes-
diarrhea.
yeah, right.
And it's all organized. You know, it comes. It's very timely.
Yeah.
Right. It's on a schedule.
Exactly. They have a bunch of like private restrooms there. You put in the code.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
that's a good
another
point.
thing I love
That's a
about
good
that
point.
place.
That's
Individual
nice.
stalls.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually, Griffin, to me, the funny thing about inviting me on this episode is that I feel like this movie kind of represents the entire history of our friendship.
That's true.
because
Was that the first time we hung?
the first time we met was
Yes.
you did an appearance in a video I made. I basically was like, I'm
Right.
gonna do this 3-part thing and say literally every take I have about the MCU and then never talk about it
Right.
again.
Put it in a box.
Yeah,
Right,
and so we met, and we did a whole conversation in that, and then skip ahead to, I think it was like I don't know, a couple of years later, and then we had gone to see Weathering with you,
Right.
and
Not
then
a bad movie.
no, it's a movie I like, a movie whose ending
Love that.
kind of baffled us.
I love
it's
that
a
ending so
very
much.
bizarre movie.
Yeah.
It's
I
trying to
figure out, like,
the
what is
ending
this-
is why I like
Yeah.
that
What is
movie.
it saying at the end here?
I
Right.
don't know. It's fuck you, kind of, is what it's
Kind
saying.
of,
Yeah, which
right.
I love.
It's
Yeah,
like,
like
let's
it's not
just
our
let it play out.
responsibility to
Yep.
fix
No, I'm
our
gonna
fucked
turn
up
into
planet.
a cloud, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so we went to Schnippers, and then what happened was, and I want to get this part on the record. You went to the bathroom. I checked my phone, and suddenly a bunch of people texted me like, "Do you see the news? Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2." And you come back, and I say, "Hey, did you see the news?" And you say, "Yeah, Kirk Douglas died." And this happened at the exact second, and my mind was going a mile a minute just dealing with the Raimi news.
Yeah.
That I just went, "Oh yeah, sure, whatever." But no, Sam Raimi. And so I would like to apologize to the estate of Kirk Douglas.
He was
fair enough.
103
He
years
was.
old. It's okay.
But I like threw away that information so quickly because all I want to talk about is why is Sam Raimi now, after like 9 years, he's gonna direct a movie again, and it's a sequel to a
we,
superhero movie.
Couldn't
We
get
spent 2
over
hours
this.
only talking about why is this happening.
Why is this happening? And also, like, I didn't think that was a move they had in the playbook.
Well,
They haven't
more and
gone.
more, I think it is there
Now.
I think that's Feige's latest thing. Where it used to be he would hunt for the big stars, right?
Yeah.
Like it was
Who are
always
the
that.
people who would never do a movie?
Right,
Can I talk
and like
into?
sometimes he gets the Robert Redford, sometimes he doesn't get the Joaquin Phoenixes,
Right.
who he like tried to get.
Yes,
blah blah blah.
Jolie. He had like his
Right,
crown jewels,
right.
like people who you'd never imagine would ever do a superhero.
And now
movie.
I feel like he's more thirsty for the like, what if I can
That's
convince
the
an
fucking
A-tier
story
director?
on Fantastic Four now. And he went
Yeah,
from like
that like he liked Sam Raimi had like a sure hand and
Right.
he didn't have to like look over his shoulder on every shot,
Right.
which is funny because the response from some Marvel fans is, "Why didn't you rein Sam Raimi in?"
Right.
I know it's so. God, this everything about this movie is bizarre, and then like its reputation as a cultural object and how it gets to this point, whatever. But obviously, Scott Derrickson writes and directs the first movie, right?
Yeah.
That is like he's got more of a hand on that film than I feel like a lot of directors on those first movies.
Also, one thing
Yeah,
I
him and
there's a James
Robert
Gunn-
Cargill is his
Yeah.
co-writer,
But it
right?
was like truly like they fucking were with that thing every step of the way.
That's
Pretty
also,
much.
I think that's the last Marvel, the only Marvel movie in like 12 years to shoot anything on film.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
wow.
Derrickson likes that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
also that movie is fairly light on crossover
It's pretty
business,
self-contained.
right? Like I
Yeah.
don't remember much of anything in that regard.
Right,
Am
that
I
movie
forgetting
kind of
something?
The
feels-
Thor beer thing, is that the post-credit scene?
But then they reuse
but then
it
they
in
redo
Ragnarok.
it, right?
No, the thing I kind of like about Doctor Strange is a lot of it plays like this is how Sony would have made this movie in 2004.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's like, they had like some John, I can't say his name right. Spates?
Sure.
Spates.
Yeah.
Like sort of spec script that they
Right.
were working off. And it does feel like, a pretty down the middle origin story kind of thing. It's got a
Yes.
fun ending.
Yes.
He does the time loop thing. You're like, oh, that's clever.
Fucking good
you know.
effects.
Dormammu
The effects
looks
are cool, right?
It's one of the only Marvel movies that was like actually benefited from 3D.
But at the same time, it's sort of like, oh man, McAdams is here with doing nothing.
Yeah.
You got Mads Mikkelsen as a villain who's kind of a nobody.
You have an
There's this
entire movie just teeing
Tilda
up
Swinton like
Chiwetel.
controversy
Yes.
that like feels like a bit of a self-own on their part, even though she's like obviously compelling in the movie.
But it
and
felt-
Chiwetel's there, and you're sort of like, it's them being like, well, he'll be villain number 2, and then by the time 2 rolls around,
Right.
they're like, we got like 8 things to do. He can show up, but I mean,
it's
don't even
cra-
bother
it's
me right
fucking crazy.
now.
But
Yeah.
But yes, they do their fucking Feige keynote, next phase thing where they announce all the fucking things. They announce it's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
At Comic-Con, right?
It was,
I think I was
think
at
so.
Comic-Con when this was
it was
happening.
at one of those, Feige
Yes.
PowerPoints.
But it was
right?
when they
Yeah.
were outlining, and then WandaVision, and Wanda will be in this, and all the fucking shit.
right.
And Derrickson comes out, and he's like, I want this to be Marvel's first real horror movie.
Right.
And
right.
fucking Feige has some joke where he's like, don't make it too scary. So then when Derrickson quits, it was like, that's weird, that's surprising. Do you think Feige freaked out about the horror thing? And that was sort of the thought for a long time. Derrickson has recently done some interviews where he said like, not to get too dark about it, but that he had like unresolved trauma from his childhood.
Mm.
He was in therapy. It sort of bubbled up and he had a breakthrough as he was developing it. And he was like, I can't do a blockbuster. I need to work on myself. And that The Black Phone is kind of the movie of him processing his childhood.
I didn't know about this at all.
I didn't know
fascinating.
that. I mean, the
This
other
is very recent. He's like,
Sure,
there was
well,
no
fair enough.
animus.
Like-
There was no pushback on what I was trying to do. I quit. I know it seems insane to people, but I was just like, I'm finally working through shit that I've been suppressing for 30 years.
Oh, I totally assumed this was Marvel being like,
Same.
you have to like put in all of these things and you
Well,
can't make what you want to make.
Cargill has said that.
Okay.
That their script was not what Marvel wanted.
I'm sure.
Like that Marvel wanted, something that's tied to a bunch of things and all that and whatever. Like imagine there's a world where they could have stuck with it and found a middle ground with them, and instead they were like, let's go do the Black Phone, and that's
Right.
all cool.
But that whole thing where you're just like, because the thought was, oh, he wanted to do his shit. He's coming off of having done this movie successfully, and Feige was like, know your place. To then go to Raimi, you're just like, is this just for hire? Does he want Raimi? Does he
Right.
want those fingerprints? Especially because Feige was like working at Marvel during Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know?
He was of course he I'm sure he has a lot of respect for Raimi for that reason.
They
alone.
knew each
Yeah.
other like
Yeah.
back in the day.
That's when Feige was the eager, like Avi Rod's eager assistant who's like, well, in the comics it says this, right?
Right.
That's how I would imagine
Yes.
younger Feige. Let's actually I got the dossier up.
Please.
Let me give you a little bit of Raimi, in between
Uh-huh.
Oz and this.
The
Yes.
9
What's
years.
up with Sam?
Yeah.
First, he's working on something called Earp Saints for Sinners, which is based on a comic book
Okay.
that maybe eventually, no, I guess it never got turned into anything. But like,
Wait, like a supernatural Wyatt Earp?
it's
thing?
it's like Wyatt Earp fighting outlaws in like sort of post-apocalyptic Vegas.
Okay.
Sick.
I don't know. I
It's
mean,
Army
it
of the
sounds like
Dead.
kind of a lot of things.
Okay,
right. Then he signs on for a war movie called The Outpost,
Okay.
based on a Jake Tapper nonfiction book about
Oh,
like
yeah.
soldiers in Afghanistan or whatever.
The CNN guy?
The CNN guy himself.
Didn't that
yes.
get made?
It did. It was made by Rod Lurie
Right.
with Scott Eastwood and Laundrie Jones and Orlando Bloom and went
Yeah,
nowhere.
yeah.
Right.
David pointed at me.
Well, because
Laundry's
Laundry
my
Jones,
boy.
yeah.
This is the most
Oh, I
fascinating.
mean,
Yeah, this is the most
the best.
fascinating thing about this period, and we're gonna keep exploring this. But just like he was throwing out so many different things where it felt clear, like he doesn't know what the
He's
next
right.
stage of
He's
his career is.
kind of waiting to see
Does
what
he want to do a
sticks.
fact-based war movie? Does he want to
Right.
launch a new potential franchise? Right.
The next thing is something called Love May Fall, which is based on a book by Matthew Quick, who's the guy who
Okay.
wrote Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes.
That was going to be at Sony. And that's more of like a straightforward, like big old drama. Like a lady has a meltdown and moves to Jersey and goes on a quest with her high school teacher. And there's a heroin addict. I don't know. Like Emma Stone was
Okay.
attached. And then it fizzled and has never been made. Then he was going to remake A Prophet.
Yes,
I think we mentioned that briefly.
The wildest one.
I think Dennis Lehane, the Mystic River
Yes.
novelist, wrote some sort of adaptation of it. That was going to be at Sony. Now it's at Paramount.
It's filming
Russell
now
Crowe-
with Russell Crowe.
I think I'm not sure if it's begun filming, but Russell
Okay.
Crowe is definitely attached.
And I think it's a music video
And
director now doing it.
Yeah, Andrew Onwubulu
Okay.
and I think Stephen James from
Yes.
like Beale Street and
Correct.
Race
Yeah.
has been attached. I mean, it sounds kind of cool.
It does.
A Prophet is pretty remakeable.
Yeah, and that was a fascinating announcement. That was the one where I
Right.
was like, oh, that's an interesting
Right,
swerve.
yeah.
And I guess,
definitely.
was it more pre-Oz that he tries to do King Killer Chronicles and
Yes.
Warcraft?
Right.
Right.
So there's more. I mean, there's a lot. Oh,
Right.
no, King Killer Chronicles is in here. Okay, wait.
Okay.
Something called World War III. That was a
Right.
WB movie based on like a nonfiction novel about like the future,
Yeah.
like predictions for the 21st
Seems
century.
Like a fun
Yeah,
premise
like
for
who the
a
fuck would
movie.
ever want to watch that? Forget that. Then
Yeah.
something called Stormfall,
Okay.
set in a heist during a tornado. I mean, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
so is it like Hurricane Heist, but
yeah, exactly.
tornado?
Yeah.
Tornado heist.
Yeah, much better.
No further stuff. Then an untitled Bermuda Triangle movie, another kind of disaster movie that Skydance is working on, has never really. Ryan Reynolds apparently was circling that one. I don't know. Scott Derrickson actually came
Okay.
aboard at some point. And that's still kind of percolating, and Chris Evans will supposedly be in it.
Okay.
Shrug. Then King Killer Chronicles. That's like fantasy books, right?
Yes.
I've never read those. Oh, right. The Name of the Wind. And now I think that's on TV. I want to say Showtime, maybe?
Yes.
So it's a show.
I think it got turned into a show. Maybe not. And then The Last
But
of
wasn't
Us.
that also supposed to be with Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yes.
Wasn't the whole thing that he was going to produce it because it's his favorite?
It's his
book series?
favorite.
Right.
And he was on a call. I don't know, but it has not, whatever.
Right.
Raimi has left that project. And then The Last of Us, which is now finally
Right.
going to be an HBO show, right?
Yeah.
But that was going to be a movie, and Raimi was the first choice for that. I think that's at Sony as well. And it went into development hell. So just like he clearly is like, I don't know. But it's all genre-y, mostly genre-y
But then a
stuff.
couple
With a
genre
couple
things,
more kind
and a
of
couple of the
grounded
genre things sound a little more sober and grounded. Like
and nothing I guess King Killer would be the closest, but like
Yeah.
nothing too franchisey.
no, Warcraft is the only one I remember
Right.
where it felt like it was far along when he left.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he was just sort of like, I don't think my vision matches with theirs, but they were in sort of, serious development. The other thing is somewhere along the line, maybe it was earlier pre-Oz Drag Me to Hell era, he gets Sony to get the shadow rights for him again. But at that moment, it was sort of like, oh, he might produce this and not direct this.
Sure.
And a crazy thing now to think about is when that's announced in like 2009 or whatever, I remember thinking, you can't do another Shadow movie. It's only been like 14 years.
Sure. And now it's like, of course they could do one every
14
5
days.
years.
Like the moment a movie bombs, they immediately announce who's going to reboot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, he's produced many films through Ghost House. You got Evil Dead. You got Poltergeist.
Yeah.
That Poltergeist remake. Anyone ever saw that? Sam Rockwell's in it, right?
No.
Yeah.
Was it Gil Keenan who
Correct.
directed that?
Sounds right. Yeah. I never saw it. Don't Breathe. Big hit.
Big hit.
The recent The Grudge remake. Big not hit.
Yep.
Something
right,
called
there's
The
another one.
Unholy. I don't even know what that is.
I don't remember that one.
Don't Breathe 2 and Crawl, which it rules.
We saw that
A
together.
we saw
delight.
that together.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Alexandra
Aja?
Aja.
Yeah.
That's the alligator movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
that
fun.
movie fucks.
So good.
He also produced Rake. Remember Rake with Greg Kinnear on TV?
Where
Rake
he-
with the
he
steak
has
on
the
his
steak
face.
on his face.
Steak on his face.
Wait, and that's
And of course, Ash versus Evil Dead.
Rake is a remake of an Australian show,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Right,
my
right.
parents got into that at some point.
Rake puts a steak on his face, and the Australian one, he puts a shrimp on the Barbie. That was the big difference.
Exactly. He's got a big shrimp on his Barbie face.
It is one of my favorite moments in the history of this podcast that you somehow Rake came up and you and I said, Rake with the steak on the face.
right.
I think it was in our As Good as It Gets episode, and Gether was like, "You are the only two guys who would ever say,
I remember that. I
Rake
remember
with the
that.
steak
That's
on
right.
his face."
But like that's what you think of because like
Absolutely.
like,
See, I didn't watch it.
if you're
You're the third guy.
if you're ever scrolling through like IMDb for like Sam Raimi's directing
Yeah.
credits, there's that one in the middle where it's just like, what is this?
What the fuck is this?
He directed the pilot, right?
Yes, and like ubiquitous Subway ads. He obviously also does the pilot for Ash versus Evil Dead.
He does, right.
And I will say
you
a
know.
thing I heard from people who worked on that show
Mm.
is that they were like, it was kind of a nightmare because I think the blockbusters broke him, and it would be like 7 hours trying to pick the right knife
And I don't think
on set when you're there. When
it's not
cameras
just
are
the
there.
blockbusters too. It's like it's probably been a long time since he had to work
Yeah.
to a schedule.
Yes,
Not
right.
to say that he's like
Right.
some insanely, but like when you read in the dossier where he's like, simple plan, we only had 60 days or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's like the last small movie he made.
Yes.
And that was a lot of time.
Right. They
But
were
like, how
just,
long
like,
did Drag Me to Hell take to shoot?
That's a good question. And I don't remember the answer.
No, and the other thing I heard is that movie went over budget and he put his own money into it.
Right.
I mean, I just listened to your episode and
Yes.
that came up. Yeah.
Right. So even that, which felt like, oh, he worked on a tighter, it's like apparently that one got out of control even a little bit. But yes, the Ash vs. Evil Dead thing, he only does the pilot. He had no involvement after that. I think that was really like a Bruce and Ivan and
a little
Tappert
favor.
thing.
Sure. Right. Right.
But it was like, oh, his episode, which I think had already like double or triple the budget allotted of all the other episodes and more time and is a longer episode. They were like, he went like a month over schedule. Like it was like the rest of the production was trying
he
to
works
make up for it.
big.
Yeah.
I guess. Drag Me to Hell being sort of the outlier, but still a right.
But it
fairly
is
big
that
movie.
thing. A lot of guys we've talked about in the show, and some of the big examples of guys we haven't talked about, like Peter Jackson or whatever, where it's like he can't go back to small again, right? You wonder if part of him signing on for Doctor Strange is just like, I need someone to give me $200 million.
Right.
I can't go back to bootstrapping it.
Now I'll say that JJ in his dossier says that he could not find any evidence that WandaVision was actually ever supposed to come out after this.
Correct.
As much like that has been
We
erroneously kind of rumored, but he
both
doesn't think right.
Thought that after seeing the movie because
Yeah.
it would have made more sense dramatically.
It would have made more sense dramatically. I'll
but
certainly
I
say that.
think
Doctor Strange was initially going to be in WandaVision,
Right.
But and then that never came to pass. Maybe
Yes.
COVID reasons.
Was it going to be
like-
Doctor Strange all along?
That would have been stupid.
Yes.
But no, I think honestly, from what I remember, like it was more them saying like we realized it would be dumb for him to show up.
Yeah.
Like this is about her. Like,
But
it'd be
I
weird.
went back to the press conference announcement thing, and they clearly outline WandaVision, and then they're like, and Wanda will also then appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. of Madness.
Right. She was certainly always attached to this movie.
Spider-Man is
right.
the one that got majorly flipped.
Right.
Where this should have come out a year before Spider-Man.
So yes, Raimi, of course, announced February 5th, 2020, that fateful day of Kirk Douglas's death
Yes.
and Patrick and Griffin's viewing of
Weathering with
You.
You.
Yeah. What did
And truly, yes, we just spiraled for like an hour and a half. Our burgers were long done.
Oh yeah.
Just going like, what does this fucking mean? Is this like is this a concession? Is this like an admission of defeat from Sam Raimi that he just has to fucking
The thing that confused us the most is that he, by all accounts, did not have a great time making Spider-Man 3 because
Right.
of studio interference.
Yes.
Yes.
And then did not seem to have a great time making Oz
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of studio interference. And then finally, after almost a decade, decides to make a movie again with the most controlling of
Right.
all
the
studios.
most notorious like nodie like
Right.
operation that exists. Although Marvel is at least known for they produce things that work.
And people tend
Where
to have
it's not
an
like-
okay time making these movies, like when they actually
it's
do it.
rare that people are like absolutely burning the bridge as they leave. Like it's not like the Justice League debacle where
Right.
like Warner Brothers clearly like swung in halfway through that movie and was like, this has to be something completely different.
Yeah.
Right. You know, like that was the most crazy example.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also just the weird thing of like, he's working with the studio that has basically built their whole model off of like kind of the template that he had established
Yes.
like way earlier. It's like,
Yeah.
like he doesn't need to do this.
No, but also toned it down so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Waldron, who wrote Loki,
Mhm.
the TV show, used to work for Dan Harmon. So he knows from multiverses.
Right.
Well, can we actually, there's something that I wanted to bring
I think
up.
he may listen to this podcast.
Really?
Not sure. He follows me on Twitter.
Wild.
Shout out to Mike. So I've been wondering with this movie and recently, like,
Yes.
is the influence that Dan Harmon has had on the MCU seems like, seems really wild. Because like I feel like it begins with, you know, he's brought in to do like Punch Up on the first Doctor Strange.
Right.
And then there's this thing where obviously like Community has
Right. A lot of his writers.
like
from
remedial
Community,
chaos theory, it has
Yeah.
like it kind of introduces like darkest timeline and stuff like that
Sure.
into just like the like pop culture like lexicon for like this era. And then you have the thing where like Chris McKenna, like main writer on Community,
Right.
writes the Spider-Man movies and it's like
And
one of the
at least one Ant-Man, right?
Yeah, I think
Two?
two.
I
Second
maybe,
one.
maybe
Yeah.
both. Right.
Yeah, and then Michael Waldron from Rick and Morty.
Yes.
Does Loki, and this Jeff Loveness, who
Yes.
was writer on Rick and
Yeah,
Morty, is
shout out
writing
Jeff.
Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania.
Uh-huh.
Ant-Man 3. Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Just-
I think Jeff definitely listens to this podcast. Hello, Jeff.
Jessica Gao, who's the showrunner on She-Hulk, is another Rick and Morty person. Obviously the Russos.
Right.
Sure, who directed much of Community.
Right, and that's
sort of set the tone
everyone,
on
by
that one.
all admissions, it's like they got hired because of Paintball 2.
Yeah.
Look, you're right. I think it's because Dan Harmon's always been very good at like translating very nerdy comic book thought into like funny entertaining.
It's funny that he's
television
just
and-
kind of become a farm team now for
Hey.
like, they just pluck. Yes.
and also you know working for someone who's in charge
Mhm.
and will get his hands into your script and move everything around, and like so being able to deal with that, maybe that's similar to being able to do with Feige, although Harmon and Feige seem very different
Yeah.
disposition wise.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't think Kevin Feige like works insane like night hours or like
Growing
you know,
a
like, you know,
giant beard.
yeah, like
trying
Feige
to-
seems like more
Right.
like a guy who like wakes up at 6:30 in the morning and is like, all right, I got 18 meetings today,
Right, right.
baby. Yeah.
Whereas Harmon goes to sleep at 6:00 in the morning and has a vodka IV drip at all times.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
Mm.
But Loki's another one where I feel like this was maybe at some point supposed to be pre-Loki.
I can't tell you that. I couldn't tell you.
Well,
I just simply don't know.
It's the weird thing of
yeah.
like the way they've rolled out like rules and information about the multiverse.
Yes.
Because when they announced this movie, like I just fully assumed that, oh, he's gonna go into just weird psychedelic dimension.
yeah,
absolutely
you open
scary.
portals in the sky and you zap through 'em.
Lovecraftian fucking
Right.
But it, like, 'cause that's what he does in the comics.
Yep.
And it never occurred to me that it would be like two like, you know,
A
other
branching timeline
movie
thing.
universes and, or
Right.
and,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that kind of multiverse.
Yes.
And then it's just kind of been this thing where it's like, okay, so Loki establishes like variants.
Yes.
And so you can have like, you know, Richard E. Grant Loki and female Loki and stuff like that. And then like No Way Home establishes the rule of, okay, what if like people from other franchises show up in this thing? And it's like,
It all
It-
counts. You know,
yeah,
this
but
is
like,
the magic
and
of
so
the-
I'm like,
of the
if this was
notion.
supposed to like come before No Way Home,
Yeah.
what was it going to do? Was it going to have like no Patrick Stewart or
Don't
Krasinski?
fucking know, because that was the other thing with all the rewrites or reshoots and all the stories and whatever. You're like, I bet fucking post No Way Home, they're going in and they're adding 8 bazillion cameos to this. I bet you're gonna see fucking.
There were a lot
everywhere.
of wild rumors about this movie.
Yes.
The Tom Cruise one being the biggest, which you can Google. It's the
Yeah,
it's
he was going to be
everywhere.
the superior Iron Man.
He was
Right.
going to be
Wonder Woman?
Iron Man,
and that Emily Blunt was going to be Black Widow, that they were going to do sort of the alternate casting people who almost played.
a lot of that, which sort of sounds like fun, jokey shit. And
Yeah.
that, like I'm not saying that would have been good or bad. Like
Right. And then
but-
there was like, are they going to do Edward Norton? Are they going to do Nick
Right.
Cage, Ghost Rider? Like,
Norton would be a true coup.
that was a
would be
rumor of like
amazing.
both Bana and Norton.
Yeah. That'd
Yeah,
be
but the
fun.
Norton one would have been wild.
Fucking bring back Ghost Rider.
They should bring back.
He
Ghost
has
Rider.
a flaming chain,
And the thing
and
is-
he's a
of that.
flaming skull
I'm
that
aware
rides
of
a
that.
motorcycle.
They haven't
does.
cast a new one.
They do have a.
Just
there was
have
a,
Cage do it
there was
again.
another.
Yes. No,
Well, no, there is a
absolutely.
Ghost
Yeah.
Rider in Agents
Robbie
of
Reyes.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, but he's a different
right.
one.
He's different.
They don't have
Hey,
to
look,
do Johnny
look,
Blaze.
No, we should have like a buzzer I can hit. It's like, all right, enough. We're being too nerdy.
Too nerdy.
What I do know is that they threw everything out. Raimi
Yeah.
and Waldron had this like it's you got to start in like 3 months,
Right.
And they say they just tossed away the script and started anew, and I believe it. By and large,
The thing I remember hearing is
and
that
I know Waldron was the one coming up with the Illuminati and all that. Like he
Yeah.
was the one which is a comic book concept.
the thing, just to mildly correct, the thing I heard Raimi say in an interview was they were like, set date, have to start, not enough time to redevelop the script. And then the pandemic was like, okay, you know what? Actually, you can get your hands in there and you can restart everything now.
I guess let me see what else is in this dossier. COVID. Right. COVID did eventually push everything back to, but their original thing was February announcement, May start date.
Yeah.
And COVID pushed it to November.
Right.
And so they just like wrote it on Zoom.
Yes.
I think they had a nice time. They seemed fond of each other, Raimi and
Yeah.
Waldron. Raimi said, we had a deadline to start shooting with a script that I didn't have anything to do with. And everyone had to jump in and start over. It was very rushed and panicked. And for us, the COVID delays were a blessing because it got us more time to work on the script. I've really appreciated these interviews that Sam Raimi has given where they're like, do you love the MCU? And he's like, I saw like Black Panther, Iron Man, that's one of them,
Yeah.
right? Like where he clearly was like, I watched some videos.
Wait, like he said, they showed me the relevant parts of WandaVision.
Yes,
right.
Like,
My
didn't watch it
favorite.
all. I watched like a highlights reel.
Right.
Right. When did WandaVision air? It was like January 21. I imagine there was not actually WandaVision for him to watch yet, right?
No, because it was WandaVision straight into
January
this.
2021.
It was truly a thing where, like, because WandaVision started filming pre-pandemic, then was on ice for a long time, then they finished it,
Yeah.
and then I truly believe it's like Elizabeth Olsen wrapped on WandaVision on a Friday, started on Doctor Strange on a Monday, and
Solomon
then
Grundy.
like 2 weeks into Doctor Strange, COVID outbreak, London case is bad, the movie's on ice for another 2 months.
Can I just say, it's funny to me
wild.
that this is the first main feed Marvel movie
It
you've ever
is.
done.
We've
And
obviously-
and it,
Wild.
and it
Well,
clear-
it's not that wild.
I know, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's just because we've done fucking
we
27
did all the
Marvel
fucking
episodes. Yeah.
phases 1 to 3.
But
Right.
also clearly
on
this
Patreon.
means, we've got to spend an hour plus just
know.
discussing like the studio stuff and
Okay.
like the Marvel of it all.
Patrick's right. We got to talk about the movie.
Yeah. I think this movie is so interesting when you compare it to Spider-Man 3. where the-
Spider-Man 3 by Sam Raimi.
Yes. Spider-Man 3 for me, top to bottom, feels like a Sam Raimi movie. Every single second of that movie feels like it has his fingerprints, his house style, but some of it is just not well done, right?
It's rush. It doesn't all hang together right.
You
But
can
you're correct.
feel-
It's not like there's scenes where you're like, oh boy, like
right.
what's this anonymous garbage?
Absolutely. And
Sure.
you're like, this is sort of Raimi, but he can't find the right pitch.
Even though like you can listen to our episode, like Topher Grace talks about being like, I was on 9th unit, like,
Right.
it's like it was a whole,
But
you
it-
know,
it
but, yeah,
feels
but
like
it feels like
Tip
Sam
to
Raimi.
tail Raimi, and the things that people will mock, like the dance sequence or the handling of Venom or whatever,
Right.
feels like Raimi having resentment for the things that the studio's pushing on him and doing them in the most Raimi way possible, which then upset people, right?
Sure.
Whereas this movie, it's like he's trying to both show he can play by the rules, do the thing that fits into their model, and then find his personality in it. There's scenes in this that feel completely anonymous. Watching this for a second time, I would like go through cycles of just being like, I'm so fucking bored. And I felt this the first time watching it too.
I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I would say, especially in the sort of first chunk,
Yes.
which is the most concerned with like setting all the pieces out.
I would feel like every 10 minutes there'd be an alternation for me. And I'd like something
interesting.
would happen and I'd be like, fuck, yes, there's the guy, right? But it feels like in the scenes where it's like, Raimi, you just have to do this. He's not fighting against it anymore.
No,
He's
but you're
playing by
right.
the
There's not
rules.
a lot to it.
He's picking his battles.
Well, like, so, like, what's the stuff that he, like, you know, the stuff to me that feels a little anonymous or what, you know, is, You see, I like the first action sequence with Shumagarath.
I think it's the
No,
best action sequence in the movie.
Isn't it
I
not
disagree with that, but
Shumagarath?
it's not technically.
It's like
It's
Gargantos?
Shumagarath.
Buzzer, nerd buzzer.
Too nerdy.
It's Shumagarath.
Okay.
They do not name this the thing.
Yeah.
Technically, Marvel
Guys,
has to
excuse
say,
me. I have the comic here
Okay.
that has the original Shumagarath
Yes.
story that I've been reading recently. 'cause
Shumagarath rules. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters.
He's like an evil demon.
He's an
that,
evil
like,
eye tentacle man.
but like
not
that
man.
originates is inside the Ancient One's head, and
it's
it has to, but like his
Yes,
true
go
form is
on.
a tentacle thing. But like this is just a tentacle monster.
Yes.
look, guys.
Look.
They don't name the monster in the movie.
Uh-huh.
In the press notes, and I think like it is called Gargantos, which is a name they made up because
Okay.
Shumagarath's rights are owned by, I have to look this up, not Marvel, for some insane heroic signatures.
What?
Do you remember how Shumagarath is a playable character in Marvel vs. Capcom?
Yes, a
That-
really good character, one of
Oh.
my mains, fucking great character.
But just of all
and-
the choices, how did they land on that one?
because he's cool, because he's different. I think they were just trying to find like, are there like other kind of like fighting types we can imagine that's not just like punch?
Oh, yeah,
punch,
just-
right?
just
Dennis
a
in this
deep cut.
current zone, I sometimes see him go into where he's like, his eyes are darting back and forth.
It's like watching a tennis match.
His hand is slowly curling into a fist. And he's like, do I need to fucking noogie these guys?
it's
Am I
Shum-
about to say shut the
It's-
fuck
it's
up?
No, you're confused, but you're also like, should I be bullying them more?
it's one of those weird things. You know how Marvel used to do like Conan comics and
Yes.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. For whatever reason, Heroic Signatures own some sort of like little bit of Marvel comics characters,
Well, it's
including
like the fucking
Shumagarath.
Rom Space Knight shit.
But I mean,
Right.
I
That
just
whistle come
appreciate
from?
that they
Jesus.
weren't like, we're not going to do Shumagarath because we don't own the rights.
Yeah.
So we'll do a monster that looks exactly like it, but it's not it. Like anyway,
This monster looks so fucking good.
it looks great.
It's great.
Especially like watching again this time. The first time watching the movie, I truly felt like I was so nervous about like, are we about to watch Oz the Great and Powerful?
Sure, it's
Because
just going to be
if
boring.
it felt that
right.
anonymous and that he was that drowned out in his style, I was going to be so fucking depressed
Sure.
that I only watching it a second time was I like, God, I was fucking white knuckling that entire time.
It's sure. I think the Shumagarath action is really fun, and I like the end of the eyeball getting plucked
Absolutely.
out.
I mean, with
That's
like
very
the
neat.
optical nerve. I mean, also like one thing
Delightful.
that I just appreciated about that is like, you know, we've seen a lot of, you know, Marvel battles in like
Mhm.
cities and stuff like that. And I feel like in this, like, you know, the shots hold a second or two longer than Marvel's usually do.
Definitely.
The compositions are a little cleaner.
There's
The action is
spatial
moving like,
geography.
yeah, toward the camera.
Sometimes that is not true.
It's not always true,
Like,
but like in the opening one, I think that's
the-
like pretty clean.
In the crucial sequences, it's true.
Right.
The action I was trying to think of that's a little more anonymous is say like when Wanda attacks the you
Yes.
know what's it called Kamartaj,
Yeah.
and she's like shooting lasers and there's a shield. That feels a little bit more like the B
But
team
this
can
is-
do this.
It's the
right?
Raimi
You know,
pick his battle shit. He's like,
that's what I'm saying.
horse
Like,
trade. How many of
and
these
it's
fights
like-
can I get?
It's a couple minutes. And then we're into Wanda going through a mirror and reassembling her
Like-
body and all that, where you're like, ooh, like,
Right.
you know, this is fun.
Every 10 minutes he'll like fucking the other metaphor to steal from Raimi's visuals. I think of fucking Toby at the front of the train just trying to hold everything together, right? And then the other thing is like this movie feels like the fucking zombie Doctor Strange just being like, I refuse to die.
Right.
Whatever body I need to take, I will find some way to will this back into being my fucking movie. But like that opening sequence, the cold open Defender Strange America Chavez, I was
where
like,
they're like jumping on
incoherent,
jumping
worried.
on blocks and
I
the
understand it's supposed to
whatever.
I will
be
say, have you seen it in
disorienting.
3D?
No,
It's
I
actually
kinda wanted.
It's funny when you guys
These
brought
days
the,
it's kind of hard to see a movie in 3D. Like it's the
Well,
opposite of
this-
just
difficult.
cramming
this
it
is
down
the
your
weird
throat,
thing.
right?
Even 4DX will be like, we have one 3D showing a day. The rest of the time, it's 3DX.
here's the thing,
Right.
Lincoln
and you
Square.
won't believe which one we dropped.
Yeah.
Eyes,
I mean, Lincoln
yes.
Square IMAX. It was IMAX 3D.
Wow,
That's
where-
cool.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. Like a friend
on
just
the
like
big
bought-
ass screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like oh, you know, I don't know, like 6 p.m. opening night or whatever. It was funny. While you guys were at the press screening, I had like I knew multiple people who were at that press screening, and you guys are white knuckling it. I'm sitting there just like waiting for the responses, being like, please let it be
Right.
okay. And then Griffin, you and multiple friends were just like, it feels like you can see Raimi there, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's all I fucking care about. Fine, but
Right.
I will
Yeah.
say 3D post conversion, obviously. But also the first movie I've seen released this way in a
Mhm.
while. I think Infinity War was the last time they did like the IMAX will be
Yes.
IMAX 3D. And honestly, like it's pretty solid. Like
I believe it.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like that opening action scene when like they're like the bus is like flying at the camera and he
That's
cuts
the
it in
thing.
half and
His
stuff like that.
visual style is really well suited for
And
3D.
even the opening scene, which just like them running around through like whatever
Yes.
dimension in 3D, it's like cameras flying through stuff's moving by the camera. It's like it feels like it was designed that way.
Doctor Strange and Ant-Man are the two Marvel franchises that actually work in 3D.
Very given to it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the
Uh,
first movie I saw in 3D, and I remember it looking pretty good.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
pretty fucking good. And the portals and the shifting, all
Yeah.
that stuff like works
That-
well the same way
The
Ant-Man.
first Doctor Strange might be the
microphotography.
last movie I saw in 3D, in fact.
Really?
Yeah, because it used to be at the press screenings,
Yeah.
they would be like, here are your glasses.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we saw like
The Avatar
Gemini
trailer.
Man in 3D.
Yes.
Right.
Right, or whatever.
Did you
like,
see
things like-
Alita Battle Angel in 3D?
I saw Alita Battle
Okay.
Angel in 3D.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
But like the last time where it was like, take your plastic real 3D glass,
Right.
not the very nice
Yes.
Dolby, glasses, like, but anyway.
Yeah. David,
Yes.
you ever heard of data brokers?
Nope.
They sound like an evil league, don't they? They sound like what was the X-Men team called? The Ravagers?
Yeah, they sound like some sort of band of cyberpunk criminals.
Well, they're not, David. They are, in fact, the middlemen. They're boring middlemen collecting and selling all those digital footprints you leave online.
Oh, those jerks.
Their villainous scheme, they can stitch together detailed profiles which include your browsing history, online searches, and location data, things I never want anyone to see. And then they sell your profile off to a company who delivers you a targeted ad. No biggie, right, David? No biggie?
Well, I think you were thinking of the Marauders, by the way, or maybe
Oh, that's who I
the
was thinking
Reavers?
of. I was combining the Reavers and the Marauders into the Ravagers, which is, I don't know where the fuck I was pulling Ravagers from. I don't know where the heck I was pulling Ravagers from.
Well, they are in the MCU, right? That's the Guardians of the Galaxy guys. They're Ravagers. So there you go.
That's true. David, you might be surprised to learn that these same data brokers are also, and I underline this and make it into a hyperlink, selling your information to the Department of Homeland Security and the IRS. I, for one, don't want the tax man showing up at my door because of some search I did on my phone. So to mask my digital footprints, I protect myself with ExpressVPN. Do you remember when Doctor Strange had a mask? He had just like a blue, expressionless mask. Like it sort of just
Yes.
looked like the Silver Surfers had.
Yes, I do. It was weird.
It was not very successful. It didn't last very long.
They were trying to make him look like an alien, I feel like. He
They were
looked
trying to
sorta
make him look
yeah.
like an alien. But the masking that ExpressVPN does is so much better.
Okay. Tell me how.
Well, one of the easiest ways for brokers to aggregate data and tie it back to you is to locate you through your device's unique IP address, which also reveals information about your location. And when you're connected to ExpressVPN, your IP address is hidden like a spell. It makes it much more difficult for data brokers to identify who you are. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of network traffic to keep your data safe from hackers on public Wi-Fi.
That's cool. That's why I have the ExpressVPN app downloaded on all my devices, phone, computer, even my home Wi-Fi router. You just tap one button, turn it on, and you're protected. It's that easy.
Smart.
So, Griff, make sure your online activity and data is protected with the best VPN money can buy. Visit expressvpn.com/check right now and get 3 extra months free through my special link. That's expressvpn.com/check, expressvpn.com/check to learn more. Doctor Strange, yeah, he, in the opening sequence, different Doctor Strange, and there's America Chavez, and they're being chased by
Do we
like kind
talk
of a
about
mummy
America
ghost
Chavez?
guy. Sure, let's talk about it.
Because America Chavez, essentially like the human MacGuffin of the movie,
Yes.
Right.
is obviously like she's a pretty recent character in the comics.
Right.
I think
Yeah. I mean, at this point, she's like 10 years old, but yes.
right. I mean, but Doctor Strange is like, I don't know,
He's
60 years old.
60 years old.
But the
or
other
whatever.
thing
Yeah.
was, like, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but, like, I thought she was even more recent. And it was like she had, like, one appearance, like, 10 plus years ago. And then she was sort of revived, like, 5 years
Well, so
ago.
No.
here's the
right?
the timeline with her is I think she first showed up in this like mini series that I think Joe Kelly.
Joe Casey.
It's the
Joe Casey,
Man of
right.
Action guys,
No,
right?
yeah, called
Yeah.
like Vengeance.
Called
And
Vengeance.
I think she just popped in that.
Right.
But the thing that I know the character from is she's one of the team in the Kieran Gill and Jamie McKelvey Young Avengers run.
Which was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like a great series, but like she is a completely different character in this movie. Like her in that series she's basically kind of like grumpy, just like kind of like is sick of everyone's bullshit.
Mhm.
Because if
Yeah.
you got Kid Loki there, and she's just like when he talks too much, she throws him through a wall.
Sure.
Like that, like that's her whole vibe, and it's like clearly that
She does make star-shaped portals.
That is
right? That is
cool.
her power.
Yeah,
cool.
Yes.
but like you can see like in these movies, with like Cassie Lang and stuff like that, they're like, okay, we're building like this new generation of like the younger heroes
It
that
is
can like
this
be
funny
like,
thing where you're like, what's Feige's big picture plan now?
definitely
And it's
planning
like
it.
6 different teams.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
clearly the young team. There's the Thunderbolts bad guys team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is a funny one to me because, and this has nothing to do with the actress. Is it Xochitl Gomez? Is how you say her
Yes,
name?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Sure.
but I don't know who this character is really.
in this. So
Yeah,
Jim
I mean, it's like
Gomez,
it's not just that she doesn't resemble the comic book version. It's just that like usually Marvel's pretty good at like introducing a new likable character that you want to follow.
She's plucky.
She's plucky, but like
That's what I got for
But
you.
also
I think.
sad. Like,
She's a little sad.
right.
She's a interdimensional traveler from her parents are gone or whatever, right?
This
Yeah.
movie is like it struggles
Plucky.
with a couple big choices. It's like, what's the decision here? What's the take here? And they're
She-
like, we'll get back to this later.
She's not Bucky. to be
She's
clear.
not Bucky. She is plucky. But-
She's it's a perfectly she's charming, but like you're right, Patrick, that it's sort of like I'm not walking out of there being like, I can't wait for more America
No.
Chavez. Like, like
I
you're
don't
more
think
like,
anyone
"Oh,
is."
she
No.
was fine,"
Maybe
you
the
know.
take could have been she would be like more like a tramp, like an interdimensional tramp.
You mean like a sort of like an urchin, like a little sort
like
of
riding the
street
rails?
kid?
you know?
Right.
She has like a little bindle over her shoulder,
Yeah,
but she's
Right,
hot.
right.
But
Maybe
it's
like a hat that's sort of the lid is sort of popping off.
right,
of it.
like it
Right.
looks like a can opener opened it.
could
at
she
the
like
top.
ride like a boxcar through dimensions? Like
Yes,
that's her new thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk
If-
about.
So
Hey.
she's got kind of like a jean jacket. That's her.
Yeah.
All these
like,
writers listening, guys, you know where to find me.
the Doctor Strange characterization, right? The constantly shifting. What is the right way to play this character in every movie? Sort of like different swings at it.
Mm.
The first scene post the bus fight where
Mhm.
they're eating pizza.
Yeah.
I like the interplay in that dynamic, and I was like, okay, this is fun. And I realized, like, in that moment, I got excited. And so the value of her being in this outside of functioning as a human MacGuffin,
Right.
which is like, oh, they're doing the Wolverine thing. Like, Wolverine's always best with a teenage girl.
Mhm.
It's the perfect
Wolverine
counterpoint
is a mentor
for his
to many-
self-seriousness,
Yes,
his
right.
burliness. And you're like, Doctor Strange's arrogance is best punctured perhaps by like a 16-year-old girl who's like, I don't fucking know
a
what your
wise
bullshit
ass
is.
teen who's
Right.
like not
Right. You're
impressed.
like, this
Yes.
is good, and it solves him not needing to be snarky. You can kind of make him straight man, but allow him to be funny.
Yeah, have him be a little stuffy. Have him be like,
Right. But
you
then
know.
I feel like that dynamic is immediately dropped for the rest of the movie.
Well, it's not so much dropped as it's just like there's no time for much of a dynamic because there's so much other stuff they have to do. I
Yes.
mean, their other scenes together in the movie are like the thing where they like look at the memories, and they're sort of like, and that's just kind of like a little,
Which is like the
exposition
most
thing.
Rick and Morty gag in the whole
Yes.
thing.
The voice that's like, your memory is
Right.
projected.
You
or
step
whatever.
on
Yeah,
on
right,
like a little
right.
like circle and like your memories project on a screen.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be that fucking guy, but like, especially watching this a second time, I was just like, what is their fucking business model? You're telling me your store is come in and we'll let you relive your memories,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they have like a try-me portal
Yeah, they'll give you like 20 seconds.
outside, like four of them, like multiple.
It feels like they should have cut it off at some point. Been like, you've gotten your
Yeah, it
20
would have been
seconds.
funny to
Pay-
have
yeah.
to like add
Right.
$8 for more
right,
or
because
whatever.
if
Right.
I would just go once a day and just get a little memory,
Yeah.
Just a little,
a little
look-
freebie memory.
What's the model for any of these things on
Well,
our
sure,
phones?
sure.
I mean, we're like, so often I see someone load an app and they're like clicking 8 ads away, and I'm like, it's probably like $1 to remove that. And they're like, well, I don't pay for apps. I'm like, well, okay.
It's a principle thing. Yeah.
But it's the thing with America and Steven
Mhm.
in this, where they're together. It's like a kind of little like buddy dynamic.
Yeah.
And then once the Illuminati stuff happens, they get separated.
Yeah.
And then Wanda takes her, and they're just gone for the rest of the movie. And then he's just hanging out with
The biggest
Christine.
flop of this movie, which is a movie I like, is that the crowning end moment for their dynamic is when Zombie Strange is like, "Look, America, you've had this power in you all along. You know what to do." And that needs to be a big moment, right? Like that needs to be the her being like, he's right.
Right.
And instead it's just kind of like, look, America, it's been about 2 hours on the clock. It's kind of time for you to just fucking use your powers like correctly.
But also, like, this movie strands Wong on the side of a mountain sleeping for an hour, and then he wakes up and he's like, okay, time to
He's
fucking...
sleepy. Let him sleep.
Look, he's the Sorcerer
in so many
Supreme
of these
now.
goddamn movies.
No, I love him, obviously.
Me
We
too.
love fucking Benedict Wong on this show.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. But it is one of those things. And their interplay is always so fun.
It is.
And I was excited for him to like fucking be in more of this movie because he keeps on making these small appearances and the other things. It's like, okay, but this is his main franchise now. And it truly is like he's sort of invested in it. He makes the sort of plea to Wanda. She's like, I'm going to knock you out for a little bit. And then an hour later, it cuts to him waking up on a mountain and being like, oh, thank God I landed here.
Right.
Let me just climb up 3 steps and I'm back in the movie.
Right. Look, these things are hard to not needles to thread or whatever. Look, in the plot of the film, America's, that all happens, right? Then we're with Stephen Strange, and he's been dreaming of this, sure, right?
Right.
Because when you dream, you're actually imagining another life.
I think a cool concept.
A
Me
cool
too.
concept that also raises a lot of questions.
Raises a fair amount of
Many.
questions. I don't know how many dream sequences Marvel has had. That's what I was trying to think about.
Yeah.
I think very few, if any. So
Yeah.
at least they haven't really tread on any unfortunate territory.
So
that
is there
way.
like a whole universe where everyone has like forgotten their homework
Yes.
every
Yeah.
single
all
day?
fucking
Look,
day.
this is not like DC where there's 52 universes. There's like
Infinite.
Yeah,
There's like a universe where you actually, stepped on a, cracker and like nothing else about your life is different.
Yeah.
There's a
Like,
universe
right?
where you are homework.
Yes, that's the thing. It can be
The worst.
Oh my god!
It can be as minute as you live next door to where you live, or as massive as you are homework. You are a pile of homework.
Terrifying.
And everyone is
scariest.
homework.
Oh boy.
And then there's this sort of like emotional arc for Doctor Strange where his former girlfriend, were they ever together?
They
Or
were together.
Or were
Okay.
they just kind of like bantery
Well,
friends?
Yeah, in the first movie.
Yeah.
What was your guys' impression of their relationship?
I don't remember.
My impression of their
I mean,
relationship, there's the scene after the car accident where he's like an asshole to her and she's like, I'm done.
right.
And
where,
I
where
was
he's
like-
in his fancy apartment or
Yeah.
whatever.
But earlier on, you see them like, talking
Right.
at work.
They do banter, and he's like, "I want this on the music or something." Right?
Right.
There's some music joke.
I think they're like Jeff and Britta to tie it back to Community.
Like you think
Yeah.
they have sex, but they've never really written
He
down
won't
what they
fucking
are.
commit to it, and she
Sure,
probably
he's annoying.
Right.
He's
Like,
annoying.
my impression was that like maybe they had dated like briefly like a couple of years ago.
Right,
It
right. Yes.
didn't work out because he's
Right.
an asshole, and they're still like flirty.
Yeah,
But that's it. But like in this movie begins, and it's as if like she was the great love of his
Sure.
life.
yes,
And
Yeah, this is a fair complaint, Patrick. I'm not objecting. I just do like the idea of like in a world where a lot of people puffed out of existence for 5 years.
Yeah.
you might come back and be like, "Fuck, like that was what I was
Fuck.
supposed to do."
Absolutely.
Or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
right, yeah.
I mean, there's stuff here that I find really compelling. Like because
Right.
like a big part of this is like, is like questioning like, is he happy or not? And this,
yes. I think this movie does not actually pull off. It's like they
Right.
set it up, and at the end they sort of like offer a coda to it. But I got excited at that moment where I was like, "Oh, that's actually an interesting emotional spine for this."
Yeah.
which is Wanda's going crazy,
Right.
trying to find the universe that she wants,
Yes.
and his job is to stop her.
right.
But could he, in the process, get distracted by the possibility of, is there a universe where I didn't fuck this up? Like, he also has his own thing he's searching
It's
for.
a dangling temptation, and of course, every time he goes to a new universe, Doctor Strange is always like, "No, we always
Right.
fuck it up," or
Yeah.
people are like, "You always fuck things up."
Right.
Like when the Illuminati show up, they're like, "You."
The
you're so
single
bad."
most surprising thing about this movie is that 70% of it takes place in one alternate universe.
Yes, this is what I think we were talking about the Tom Cruise rumors or whatever. I thought this movie would be like every 10 minutes, baby.
Jump,
We're
jump,
it's
jump.
Rick and Morty style,
Yes.
baby. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
that's what they wanted you to think. Like when they put Patrick
Absolutely.
Stewart's voice in the trailer,
Yeah.
everyone hears that and is just going like, Oh man, if they like let us know about that, what are they holding back
The
right
trailer
now?
has 3 different Stranges in it, and you're like, oh, we're gonna meet
Yeah.
like 20 Stranges.
And this is the
Right.
thing, like I didn't want any of that. All like going on, I was just like the thing, the trailer that I cared about is the shot where the camera flies into Elizabeth Olsen's eye.
Yes.
And I was just like, all I want is a Sam
Right.
Raimi
You want
movie.
the visual
And also
bravura.
the
Yeah.
fucking trailer said from director Sam Raimi, and I'm
It
like,
did.
they're promoting it
Which
that
is
way.
cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
See, I thought with Enter the Spider-Verse and going so silly
Yeah.
there that I didn't think they were gonna really go in like an absurd way with this movie. Like I felt like that had established, like at least for me
Yeah.
personally, like just going crazy and having a ham universe. and
That's
shit.
the wild.
Like I didn't expect it really
Sure.
as much in this.
It
Right.
is the wildest thing about this movie, though, is just like the multiverse thing 5 years ago, you would have tried to explain to any layperson, and their eyes would have rolled back in their
Right.
head.
They would have just glazed over.
Right.
Like, what are you
Spider-Verse
talking
nailed
about?
this so fucking hard, right? And found the perfect way to like set this up, find the emotional value in it, explain it in a way that made sense to everybody. The fucking device of let's do this one last time, just fucking worked. And now the ground is laid for everyone to fucking dine out on this thing. And this ends up being like what was supposed to be Marvel's big entry into the idea of multiverse now ends up being this sort of like latecomer to the party.
Right.
Well,
Where
but
we're like, we've seen all the things you can fucking do with this. I mean, also, obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once is eating this movie's lunch a little bit.
it's a funny thing that they came out so close to each other. That's true.
And the
Everything
same
Everywhere
kind of
All
like,
at Once
what's
is
the
more,
universe where these relationships are healthy?
But that's of course more right a thing of like where there's lots and lots and lots of different universes,
Yes.
and they're as zany as you can imagine.
Yes.
And one of them is just rocks, and one of them is raccoon chef.
You have that
right,
one sequence where
Raccoony, I forget.
Doctor Strange, Rakahuni.
Yeah.
The one sequence of Doctor Strange sort of is grabbing onto America.
Yeah, and they
they're going
zap through a million. Sure.
Black
I mean,
and white, they're made out of
paint,
paint
yeah.
and all
Right.
that.
I mean,
there's a
it's
bone
cool.
universe.
Yes.
And I do like when I like the little jokes of America being like, most universes don't have money.
Yeah.
Right. Things like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
But
I
then-
like the weird.
The
There's
universe
okay.
they land in is, you're like, what's the deal here? So there are a lot of flowers, stop signs are reversed.
People
Well,
kind of dress in black.
I found I have to find it. I forgot about this until just now, but I actually saw a good thread about what he thinks is going on in this universe because it's a very British universe.
Interesting.
And he had this
How
whole theory.
would you know that?
I want to find this thread because it was so good.
Because it does just kind of read as non-specifically weird and random.
But people are like dressed up in this sort of like old-fashioned raincoats and hats kind of
Okay.
way. Okay.
Also,
I wanna,
Pizza Papa's huge in Britain.
pizza
Yes.
pot. They eat pizza balls, right? So his concept was like, okay, so in this world, the 838, I think is its number.
Mhm.
Reed Richards is the smartest guy in the world, not Tony Stark, right?
Right.
Like he's introduced when we see Mr. Fantastic, it's like, and they're the smartest person in the world, right? And so Reed Richards' Ultron was not evil. It worked. It was
Okay.
just boring robots, right?
Uh-huh.
And so Thanos is not a problem. I'm trying to find. Captain Carter
Mhm.
is the Shield.
Sure.
She's British, not American. The dominant cultural force is Britain. New York looks like London. Everyone wears flat cap hats and scarves. The Illuminati's HQ is the British Museum, which it is. Like that is the set they use.
Oh.
It just looks like the British Museum. So it's like a Tony Stark free world where instead Reed Richards is the dominant intellectual personality, and that's why it has this kind of refined feel with like
Interesting.
grass growing and trees, right? Like it feels a little more natural rather than like a warmongering businessman.
Which is also just our world. So like we live in the Tony Stark world, basically.
And of course, the biggest piece of evidence he has for this is that Wanda is not from like a destroyed Sokovia in this movie. I don't know. Like this is the
Okay.
kind of thing where I'm like, look, I don't really care about this, but then I occasionally will stumble across some super fan who's
Yeah.
delving into this, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. I don't even know if it's
I'm
something they
almost
thought through.
I
Like,
want
but,
that more in the movie. Yeah.
yeah, but I wasn't thinking about what this multiverse was at
Yeah.
all, really. Like you say, I was just kind of like, oh, the traffic lights are reversed. Okay.
Right. Especially because that
Pizzas are balls now.
that sequence is so good at like in 2 seconds you're like, I get what this universe is. I get what this universe is. And
Right.
the place where they land, you're like, what's the deal here?
It's just kind of a mashup of things. But like
Yeah.
anyway, I just found that a little interesting.
Yeah.
too. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm glad I found that thread. Anyway, Ryan Broderick. That was Ryan Broderick. Shout out to Ryan Broderick. But yeah, they end up there. Right? There's nothing really in between him meeting America in that,
Well,
right?
no.
We
Oh,
have
well, there's
skipped over
Wanda,
Wanda,
right,
like
right.
you know the
He
second
goes to,
lead
he's
of
like,
the
I
movie.
know a witch, and he goes to see Wanda.
right. So he's like cold open fucking alternate universe battle,
Sure,
right?
and then she
Wedding,
shows up at the wedding
Shimmer
after the wedding,
but not
big-
Shimmer McGrath. My favorite sequence, as Gethard said, so great to see fucking Raimi New York back.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
true.
Can I point out one thing that made me really happy about just that Raimi New York scene?
Uh-huh.
Because a thing that Raimi's always been so good at that they basically stopped doing in the MCU is just showing innocent bystanders as civilians
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
Raimi's so, I mean, obviously, like in the first Spider-Man, there's a whole montage of just like New Yorkers reacting and talking about
Detroit
Spider-Man.
Bryant, go Spidey, go.
There's so much stuff in that, and it's a thing where in the MCU, years ago, I like when I rewatched all the movies, I noticed this shift where, you know, not to like, you know, do the uncool thing of heaping praise on Joss Whedon right now,
Uh-huh.
but Whedon did spend a lot of time like focusing
Put
on
the beats in it.
civilians,
Right.
saving civilians reacting to things.
Justice League, the
Definitely.
worst version of that.
The worst first, exactly.
But the first two Avengers
The
movies,
farm,
a good
though.
job of it.
They
Yeah.
saved the farm.
Yeah.
Did they? I can't even
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, they like Flash pushes the
Yeah, they
the
push it
away
or
in a
something.
truck.
Good
Yeah,
job, guys.
I don't know. But
Justice League, go!
Yeah.
But there's this shift when in like the Russo era when that
Yes.
comes in where you just never ever see civilians again.
No.
Like there's even like there's a thing in Infinity War when the Black Order is like attacking New York. Tony Stark helps one person up off the ground and then all civilians are gone. Then every battle it's like in the fields of Wakanda, in I don't know, a crater in a field in upstate New
And
York.
also, so many of our civilian characters are becoming superheroes as well. Like, you're
Yeah,
like,
there's
okay,
no
Pepper
regular
Potts is gonna
humans.
become Rescue, and fucking Jane Foster's gonna become Mighty Thor.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and now just like the smallest dumb touch that made me happy is there's like a wide shot when like you know I don't know Garganto / Shumagarath is like
Yeah.
doing stuff, and you see some people look up and they clearly ADR'd one guy going wow. You can see his mouth open and they ADR'd in the wow, and I was like oh he's really putting in the effort to
Yes.
show people reacting to
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think like that sequence is devoid of quips.
Yep.
Yes, this movie is fairly light on self-referential, defeatist Marvel humor.
Yeah, and
Of, like,
even like the fucking
Dr.
Spider-Man,
Strange,
the
where'd
webs
you
come
go
out
to
of his
medical
butt.
school?
Like, that joke works for me because it feels character-based rather than
Yeah.
the movie deflating its
Which
own
is like
heroes.
like the one thing where they say meet the Illuminati and he goes like the Illumawati, like that
Yes.
feels weird because there isn't like any of it in the rest
It
of the
also
movie.
feels weird because like that's a word he might know.
He's Dr. Strange. He knows
like,
that
you know,
shit.
it's a word that's used.
Right, he could say, "Who are these people?"
I do like him roasting Reed Richards though, just because Krasinski is such a nothing in this. Like
it's
I do
such,
kind
it's
of
such
like him.
bad casting that yeah.
The fans demanded it. They were delighted. People rioted in the aisles with glee.
Look, it
I don't
obviously
fucking know.
looks like that footage was shot 5 minutes before they started screening the movie. Right?
Or 10 years ago. like one or the
he
other.
absolutely was not in the same room as other people.
It doesn't, I mean, probably not. No,
There's
I
a,
can't
fr-
imagine.
I sort of get the sense that like everyone worked with Patrick Stewart,
Sure.
and there was a lot of subbing in and out of every other character. Maybe.
I mean, like, there was this whole thing where people were like scandalized when Elizabeth Olsen was like, I've never met John Krasinski. And I was like,
Yeah.
guys, movies are often made this way. Like, it's not like some
That's
national
welcome to our
scandal.
weird
right.
world.
Yeah. Like,
Another thing that you and I have heard is that because of WandaVision and Doctor Strange back to back, those shoots being interrupted by COVID, all this stuff, Elizabeth Olsen was committed to a TV show, an HBO show.
yeah, she's in some HBO show.
And that she was not available for the reshoots. That the
Yes.
Elizabeth Olsen stuff is
Her
the stuff that
storyline is
was
a little more fixed.
most
Yes.
fixed.
I have heard that. The thing about Scarlet Witch in this movie, if I can talk about Scarlet Witch for a minute.
I think we need to.
need
She's
to.
the villain of the movie.
Right. Because
I
the next
think-
thing after Shumagarath is, I know a witch who can fucking stop this
And she's
shit.
like, hey, what's up? And he's like, how are you doing? We're friends. Like, and then she's like, yeah. And then how does she reveal herself
She
again?
says
she
a-
knows
she
America's
says-
name.
Yeah, she says a name that he didn't say.
I think it's America.
They do
think
it
so.
really quickly also.
They do it very quickly. And then she's like, actually, I'm in a burning forest of my own emotions.
Because I got the dark hold.
all the
Yes, which she
marketing
got
was
at
sort
the
of
end of WandaVision.
hiding that she was the villain, and then they just turn it immediately.
They do.
I do want to just quickly say, while I remember this, I think this isn't as much of a problem in print. It is funny when a character's name is America and people make statements about her.
We
but
have to
then
save
feel like,
America.
yes, America's going to be okay. Like,
I don't think it is.
America's in
I
trouble.
think Doctor Strange might be wrong about that one.
yeah.
So Scarlet Witch is a massive problem character. She
Yes.
is in the comics, and she has quickly become one in the movies because her power set has never made any sense. Because Stan Lee just said, like, I don't know, she makes Ultra's probability. And later writers were like, she has control over reality? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, that's infinite power.
Her power is both too great and too vague.
Yes, in the 60s, she would wave her hands and a rock would fall down.
Right.
And like by the 2000s, it was like the whole world is at her command if she wills it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
she can create she can rewrite the entire universe
Yes.
right away, and then wipe out the entire mutant population,
Right.
which was a
And
bad move that I will
it was
always
a terrible
be mad
move.
about.
And the
Yes.
answer of why is like, well, magic. Like, you know,
Yeah.
which is this very, even within the fungible world of Marvel, a very, very vague concept.
And then she's also Magneto's daughter.
Right.
she is in,
Well,
the comics.
Yeah, sort of.
In love with a robot.
Right.
The other thing with her is that very often they go to the wall in the comics of she does something that fucking alters the universe so much. Why? She went a little crazy.
She was upset.
You know, women be crazy.
Yes.
There is this sort of
100%. Like, it's like, well, motherhood is such a powerful
Right,
thing
like,
that, like, it made her mad.
most
Yes.
Wanda arcs or stories that are altered by Wanda's powers end up having this woman under the influence thread of just like she couldn't handle the pressure.
And the Marvel Cinematic Universe made the exact same mistake with her. On her introduction,
Insane.
they cannot define what her powers are.
Yes.
She's weird.
Yes.
And it's defined as like she can mess with your brain.
Right.
And she can move shit around like
Right.
telekinetically.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And then she's in a bunch of movies and she never does anything except kind of fly around and move shit around.
Right.
And then
She
can-
never
like,
does anything like where it's defined what she can do.
she almost beats Thanos.
She's
in
very
almost beats him.
powerful.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
and
you
then
know.
like Civil War, she's responsible for civilian casualties.
Well,
like
it's not her fault. She like moves like a bomb up and then
Right.
it explodes.
but they already go to this thing of like, oh fuck, is she a problem?
right.
Does
She's
she need to be
dangerous.
watched?
Right.
Yeah.
The thing with Wanda in these movies, and I want to be careful how I word this because I know there are a lot of fans who care deeply about this character
and are very upset about how the direction she went in this
right.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
right.
my thing with her in these movies, and this is just a product of like the way Marvel makes these movies, is she has so much character development always happen off screen
Correct.
between movies.
I know.
So
'Cause
it's
it's
like-
like Infinity War opens with her and Vision, like they've run off together and they're in love, and you're like, when
Exactly.
did that happen?
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even the thing like Age of Ultron ends and she's on the Avengers, and then next movie she appears and she immediately like fucks this all up and like causes we never get to see her like functioning on the Avengers.
She's the Marvel character who most has a Jurassic World characterization. Where like every time there's a new Jurassic World movie, you're like, what fucking happened in between these two?
Sure.
Like BD
Yes.
Wong just always looks different, has an entirely different vibe and ethos.
It's true.
You know, it's so I like Elizabeth Olsen a lot as an actor.
She's such a talented actress. She seems very eager to be not in these movies
Absolutely,
anymore.
and
That
I
was
just-
one of the most heroic press tours of her being like, I
Yes.
don't watch these movies and I'm very happy to
They
have more
stress
time in
me
my
out.
schedule. Yes.
Right, and I just think it is like every time they come to her and they're like, the demands of what we need out of you are entirely different than they were last time, and we didn't let you play the fun part. And
Right.
from the moment she signed up for this role in Age of Ultron,
Yeah.
she always said the thing I like the most is her building the family.
Of course, that is the most compelling Scarlet Witch storyline. It is.
Right.
Like, which she initially is from the Vision and Scarlet Witch books, but like, yeah, like that she imagines these children into existence. Exactly.
Right.
You know.
And was like, I don't think they'll ever let me do that.
Right. And
But
then,
so
of course, they do.
WandaVision feels like the one thing, aside from the fact that she also gets to play in genres.
I think
and-
WandaVision was also just very dramatically successful. I
Yeah.
really like WandaVision.
Yeah, and comedically, you know, getting to do these different styles and whatever, that's like the one that really played to her strengths.
Right.
But a problem with how these fucking movies are made is that they had no ability to gauge what the public response to
That's
WandaVision
true.
was.
They're making this long before WandaVision premiered.
and
right.
or even
yeah.
just how it came out in the edit, like how things were playing. Like,
Right.
I think they didn't understand that there would be a much greater sense of audience sympathy and empathy for Wanda going into this film.
Right. And I think Sam Raimi has been handed Wanda's your villain, and
Yeah.
he's like, great. And I think he uses her very effectively as a truly scary villain
Yes.
in this movie.
Yes.
But he's sort of divorced from the larger MCU like ocean.
Right.
And so he just makes this movie with this like really intense like freight train villain that they are constantly trying to get out of the way of.
Yeah.
And every fucking way he uses her is cool. Like when she comes through the mirror
It's great.
and reassembles herself, it's frightening.
Yeah.
When she like invades the mind of other Wanda and makes the storm in the teacup and all that.
Yes.
It's really, really impressive.
There's the moment at Carmitage where she like freezes and everyone's frozen, and then she appears behind the one guard's head and whispers into his ear.
It's cool.
It's cool fucking shit.
When then she's all zombified and kills the Illuminati, and then she's chasing them down the tunnel. Like, it's great. Raimi.
There's a moment even where he does the Evil Dead camera thing, where they're all hiding out in that room.
Oh, and they do like the camera like whooshes one way and
and
whooshes the other way.
The camera is her presence. It's the energy.
I mean, he also does that later, where he has the camera like attacking Rachel McAdams, which I love. I mean,
it's just key.
All the Raimi stuff is so good. So like, I think he understood that assignment, but but like he's more divorced from Wanda at large.
And then because of Olsen unavailability, whether or not it was the right thing to do, they can't really rework it.
But I remember watching this movie. Sure, she's revealed as a villain right away, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then she starts attacking Carmitage, and I'm like, oh, she's like killing people. And I'm like, she's gonna have to go. There's no returning from this.
Right.
Like you have this sort of like, oh, the Darkhold made her crazy, but like almost immediately watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is it for her. Like, there's no redemption.
She's not going back on the lunchbox.
No, I mean, you can. Of course, now in the Marvel world, you could always just snatch someone from another reality, I suppose. But like, it kind of felt like I was like, this is it. This is Elizabeth Olsen saying bye.
Because even in the moments where she's sort of full Evil Dead, Deadite energy, the movie does not play like, oh, she's possessed.
No.
It plays like she's making choices that she has justified in her mind. And she's overcome with this evil energy. But it's like, she knows what she's doing. She ran the calculus. This was her choice. Which I think pisses a lot of people off who care about this character.
I mean, especially because like in WandaVision, the way it ends up is like, she does a bad thing by like controlling this whole town. And then she stops at the end. And, everyone's mad at her and she kind of walks away. And then you'd think there it's like...
There's some recognition
like
of like,
she's learned the lesson, like, okay, I got out of control.
That was crazy. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was sort of unconscious.
And then you have the post-credit scene, and it's like, oh, then she went and tracked down an evil book to do worse stuff.
Well, she gets the evil book in WandaVision. She's reading it at the end. Where Agatha gives it to her.
Right.
It was Agatha all along.
But
I would say the only thing in this movie that really, sticks in my craw, word, I don't know, phrase we overuse, is that, early on, they pose the thing to her of like, well, what are you going to do with the other Wanda whenever you find this fucking, like, family universe? And she's like, forget it. And then, of course, like, that is the question. And then at the end of the movie, that's exactly what snaps her out of it. And you're like, she's smarter than this. She would have had to think about this.
Absolutely.
So it just is kind of annoying that they don't have some further elevation there, or at least some dialogue from her, or something.
That's another fucking good sequence when like she first enters and you're seeing it from the perspective of that universe's Wanda, and the photos start moving and all that shit.
The storm in the teacup, I love that stuff.
It's really good.
It's really good.
I will say a thing that was like a little bit of a sticking point for me, and this, people might disagree with this, is in WandaVision, that whole show doesn't take place over like that much time, right? Because they're like things are suddenly happening and like
I guess so.
So
right?
like,
I can't remember
how long does she actually have the kids for, because it seems like a few days.
Yeah.
And so like if her motivation, at least for me, if her motivation was getting Vision back, a person that she actually had a long-term relationship with,
again why reordering it would make a lot more sense.
I'm just like, I get wanting kids,
yeah,
but like you did also magic them out of nothing, and they aged up to like 8 years old in a day.
They always acted like superficial sitcom children. Like they were never characterized.
Right.
And they're annoying. I like kids. I love children. They're annoying. They're annoying. Like when she's back with the kids and they're like, nee, nee, I'm like, oh God,
like
I'd be fucking like, where's the portal?
They're singing songs.
Right.
Like they're not. Whereas Vision, like it's so sad in Infinity War where she has to kill him and she, does it, and then Thanos rewinds it back, so it feels so like pointless that she had to go through that. It's so awful.
Yeah.
So like that would be like and of course that is the thing that sets up WandaVision, right? That's what she's upset about.
Right.
But it would, like her looking for Vision, and instead, of course, they don't mention Vision in this much.
She says Viz one time.
And like Waldron has said, like, look, that had been done in WandaVision. We thought like it just wouldn't really make sense for us to go back to the well.
But
I get it.
It feels weird that he's not.
But then it feels a little odd
especially
that the character
with the
we
white
actually
Vision
love
now out in the universe.
He's out there.
And so Vision is not in. She's just a single mom in this other universe.
It seems that way. Well, because in this universe, Ultron didn't fail, and so that Vision doesn't exist.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Okay.
I
Yes.
think that's the internal logic of what's
Gotcha.
going on there. But
But then it's weird that the kids are the same
Ben
kids.
wants to kill me. He just sent me a text message saying that I'm meet me outside. You're dead.
Yeah.
Stop.
But this is like right. These are the questions that are hard to reconcile with this movie.
I'm sorry, I
and
just
the
have to
ans-
call my mom to pick me up because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. Go
The
ahead.
answer is when because recently the story came out of like Feige is about to take the whole Marvel brain trust to a cabin, and they're going to spend a week, and they're going to plan out the next 10 years, right? And it's this thing where they're like the building blocks of like, oh, how do we get to this and that and the yada 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 yada, where this movie just starts to crumble under like decisions made 6 years ago. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sure they have some plan. I hope it's not Galactus or something. Like my ultimate fear is
Secret
that they're
War.
going to a cabin and they're like, and it's all going to end up with a big dude coming to threaten the Earth
Right.
again. Because it's sort of like,
Right.
how many versions of that are we
I mean,
gonna do?
what it seems like they're going to do, because this introduces. Have you guys read the Hickman Avengers stuff?
Yes.
So this movie introduces the whole like incursion thing with the Illuminati basically having to decide to like destroy these other universes.
Right. Universes are crashing into each
Right.
other. Yeah.
And that is like this long run that eventually leads up to Secret Wars, where like in that one, Doctor Doom becomes a god and remakes the whole Earth, and Doctor Doom does not exist in this world, so that will probably not happen. But like planting that seed here, I assume that's where they're going down the road.
Yes.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. That really gets me excited.
Silver Surfer would make an appearance, though, right? If they did the Galactus.
I have to imagine.
I mean, he can
Mr.
appear at any
Mr.
time.
Norin Rad will eventually show
Get
up.
him out.
He's the
Did you know that
Dust him
Silver?
off.
Did you know that Silver Surfer's given last name is Rad?
No.
He's rad
with two
Norin
Ds.
Rad with two Ds.
Well, of course.
This
Yeah.
is
That's
something
just proper.
we've talked about, I feel like, a lot over the years, and you and I have talked about this as well, of just like, is there going to become a breaking point for these movies? The thing that happened with comics, where they became so built around these crossover events
Right.
that are going to forever change the universe as you know it, and in order to follow the event, you have to read 30 different titles, because all of them have a piece of the thing alongside the main miniseries title. You know, you need to be able to track all this sort of shit. And this thing was a boon to sales, because suddenly people are picking up more things weekly.
It's the whole, they used to do it once a year. Now it's every 3 months. You
Right.
got to buy fucking 8 issues just to keep
Right.
track of everything.
So as like the comic buying audience contracted, they got the people who were on the hook to buy more titles.
Mhm.
And it worked for a while until a lot of people started feeling really fucking burnt out and just being like, this shit is just unwieldy, overwhelming. I'm tired of reading things I don't care
And
about, having to follow
expensive.
characters I don't like,
Yeah.
expensive, and then it sort of like causes a problem again, right? And it's
Right.
always felt like the thing of like, when is the buy-in going to be too great on these movies? When is the mythology going to be too fucking tangled where it's impossible to just fucking pick it up and enter into it?
We might be there.
I mean, having the TV shows makes it so much more
It's a
complicated now.
problem.
I know.
Because it's like now, instead of watching a total of maybe 6 hours of
Right.
stuff per year, it's like, oh, you've got to watch 40
And
hours.
the second one ends, the next one starts. It's
Yeah.
just like fucking constant with the TV shows, whereas the movies are at least like 4 months apart. There was like 10 days between Moon Knight ending and Ms. Marvel starting
Well,
or something.
Moon Knight was very, very tied to everything that's going on in
Impactful.
Marvel. Yes.
But I think back to and by the way, like, it felt like a couple earlier moments. This has to be the tipping point where this shit becomes just inaccessible
Mhm.
to the public. It cannot be this mainstream anymore because it's gotten too gnarled and whatever. And then it's like Endgame was such a triumph that you had people who went like, fuck it, finally, I'm going to watch these 20 movies.
Right.
WandaVision coming out during the pandemic, I
Like-
think, and that had a cleaner emotional arc.
Everyone I knew watched WandaVision. Obviously, we
A
were
lot of
all
people who had
captive
never watched Marvel
to our
shit.
couches or whatever.
Right.
Ben didn't watch it. So
Yeah.
Nope.
not everyone.
But a lot
Not
of
interested.
people,
Like a lot of people who don't really watch that shit were texting me being like, "You seen WandaVision?"
and then
It's
we're
good."
like, God damn it! I guess I have to watch all these movies,
but
and
it
they're
was
all on
also-
Disney Plus now.
It was a novelty. It was the
Yes.
first one. Oh, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
and it was different.
And
Yep.
it was different.
Like,
it had a
it-
whole
no-
concept.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, until it ended up with people shooting different color energy beams.
They
at
do
each other,
eventually.
but for a
So
while.
what the deal was for people who hadn't watched it, right? Who
WandaVision-
spent their time, I
Yes.
don't know, doing anything else.
Having sex and wearing sunglasses
Being
indoors.
cool, and their last name is Rad with 2 D's.
In WandaVision, Wanda creates a sort of bubble reality for herself where Vision, her robot boyfriend, is alive and they have children together, and it was presented kind of as like sitcoms over the years.
That's what I was going to
That's-
ask.
that's
It
the
has that very, like, it has like
First
I
it
Love
was like
Lucy.
Dick Van Dyke, then it was like,
idea
you know,
is that
Bewitched. And
she
then
grew up
right,
loving
you know,
sitcoms, and sitcoms are a comfort food. So every episode of that show essentially moves to a different
sort of
era of
decade of
sitcoms.
sitcoms.
That's interesting.
So
It
it's like, oh,
was
there's
great.
like a Brady Bunch episode and Malcolm in the Middle episode. Like it takes on the different styles, but it's sort of the evolution of the family growing across the evolution of
And
this
then in
thing.
the final episode, it's like, it was
just
a witch all
it
along, and
becomes
they zap
Marvel
each other,
bullshit.
and it's a little
Right.
boring.
But she gets a new costume that's more comic accurate at the end.
She
and
does
they
get a new
finally say
costume.
Scarlet Witch for the first
They do.
time.
Actually, every single one of these shows pretty much ends with them getting a new, more comic accurate costume at the
Yes,
end.
They
absolutely.
do love to do that.
Yeah. So what I
Let's-
was going to say.
Okay, but then let's stop talking Marvel and just do a little Raimi before
No,
we're
yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is time back into Raimi. Okay. This was a thing I forgot to say in the Spider-Man 3 episode. But I remember because those movies were just like so accessible. It's a boy who likes a girl. You introduced to one villain. You understand their tragic.
He's got a gift and a
backstory.
curse.
Right. First two are just like those are movies that anyone in America can understand. Right.
Right.
I remember Tobey Maguire going on to promote Spider-Man 3 on The Daily Show. And Jon Stewart was like, I love these movies. They're so much fun. So what's this one about? And he was like, well, we got like 3 villains this time. And one of them, there's like a meteorite that has an alien on it.
Sure.
And it lands and attaches myself to the suit.
Yeah.
And Jon Stewart goes, see, this is the moment where you lose me. He's like, this is the exact moment where I just can't engage with this comic stuff. That's too much of a buy-in, right?
Sure.
And to watch this movie where you're like, the buy-in is now so great, where just most casual viewers understand, oh yeah, multiverse, this and that, alternate reality, bubble, like, you know, alter kids, whatever. We're watching this, I was like, it's crazy that now this does not seem like too much of a buy-in
No.
for most people. And yet also, I feel like a lot of the response to this movie has been like, this is maybe the moment where I'm getting tired of having
Maybe,
to
but
keep
I
up with
also-
this stuff and track it.
I think part of the response is more people who are like, I am bought in, and you did not do what I, the bought in
That's
person,
the
wanted.
weird.
And like that's
parallel
the weird
complaint.
thing that they have usually done a good job navigating. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna satisfy the fans, we're gonna satisfy the casual family viewers who get kind of dragged along or whatever. Everyone's gonna be happy. And this one, it seems like the fans were kind of like a little grumpy about it.
Yes.
And maybe the casual family people were like, "What the hell's going on with this thing?" And then the Raimi heads were like, "Crash zooms, we love it! Like,
Yes.
you know, this is cool." Just because like there's certain things we should talk about that we haven't talked about yet. The Illuminati, we don't need to talk about that. I just like the ruthlessness of him being like, enjoy your little fan service, squash, squash, squash. Like that's what I like.
Especially because like I was so annoyed when Krasinski showed up because it's. I mean, look,
You're
you
just
don't
annoyed at how good he was.
Oh, exactly. But like,
This guy seems too smart.
my take on this is just. In no world do you cast the guy that you almost cast as Captain America
Sure.
as Reed Richards.
Yes.
It just doesn't
You're
work.
right. It's a bit of a misunderstanding. Yeah.
And
And
you know,
it's never been his energy.
No.
That's not his
Never.
fucking energy.
He is either a nice everyman or
Right.
he's
Yeah.
like an action jock.
it's truly
Yeah.
that one fucking Photoshop that has lingered for years where it's just like, oh, if you combine.
jerking a big old fantastic
Yeah,
dick.
And it's just because he's married to
I was
Emily
making a
Blunt, so
hand
it's like,
job
what if it was the
gesture.
two of them?
Yes,
People
people
like
like
that.
the married
People
couple
like that he's a
angle.
director.
Sure.
They like that he almost was a Marvel guy, that he's proven that he can be action hero adjacent now. But you're like, this is fundamentally not who he is.
Yeah,
it's
his
not
take
the energy.
on Reed Richards is just, I don't know, like bored, a nice guy, I
It's
guess.
he's sort of giving the exact same performance in A Quiet Place, which is a
Wanda,
guy
you don't want to
who's-
do this. You
Yeah.
know, it's not a good idea.
Listen, I'm trying really
But, like-
hard. Sound bad, like
You know, who else have we got? You know,
Okay,
like
Anson Mount was the biggest surprise for me because
that brought me true delight.
it really, I mean,
for him.
obviously, you know, he's having a great
He's having a
month
great,
or so.
he is,
Uh-huh.
yes.
But-
He's so good in Strange New World.
Yeah, but like Inhumans is the thing that like Marvel I feel like would most
The
want
most
to
shameful thing
yeah,
they ever
forget
put out. Right,
ever
right,
existed.
right.
Like the worst thing. Actually, no, this isn't the worst thing Jeff Loeb is responsible for. Ultimatum's a very bad comic, but like that was like their big move to be like, see, Marvel TV can play with the big boys and shoot things with IMAX cameras. Such an embarrassment.
And also, just for people who don't know, when they didn't have the rights to the mutants and that whole side of the universe,
That was their plan to have the
right.
Inhumans kind of sub in
Perlmutter
there.
was like, you have to have the Inhumans take the role of mutants in this universe.
Right.
They announced Inhumans as a movie,
The comics doubled down on Inhumans for like 3 years.
and at some point,
All right,
Feige was
guys.
like, "Don't make me fucking do this. Put this on TV."
We have to stop at the
That's
Marvel
all I'm
talk.
saying.
No, we
So
actually
there's
have to
so
stop.
much.
I know. We have to stop because
That-
we don't have
that's
a lot
all I'm
of
saying.
time.
But the Black
Okay.
Bolt thing, it's like that's the character he never wanted to fucking touch. He didn't want to have to put these in the movies. He
I-
punted that off to TV to put
Right.
Anson Mount in the proper costume and do it. And the thing that's most satisfying about it is Anson Mount fucking spent 6 months building some fucking.
He made up his own sign language because he was like, well, Black Bolt wouldn't know ASL.
Also-
he's not from A.
Yeah,
He's from M. Moon.
From what I heard from someone
From
who
the
worked
moon.
on that show is that he had like just done like clown college and so was
Yes.
really eager to like use his
put so
new
much
like
into
physical
it.
comedy
And
skills.
Black Bolt is cool.
Black Bolt's
His
cool.
voice is loud.
His name is
costume is
Blackagar
cool.
Boltagon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. So it's nice to see he got loud voice,
You
Ben.
got a loud voice.
I took my 6-year-old cousin, my little cousin George, to see this movie. We needed a couple bathroom breaks because we got a very large soda.
And it's a bit. It's actually not that long a movie.
It's
Shout
short
out,
for a
shout out
Marvel
Sam Raimi.
movie.
It's
Yeah.
an even 2 hours. Yeah.
I truly, the entire, basically all of the Illuminati dialogue happened during a bathroom break.
Oh sure.
I was astounded by that. Like, oh,
Right.
that's really
it's 5 to 10 minutes.
less.
Right. Yeah,
less.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we like walked in.
The dialogue itself. Like, then you've got this.
Wanda
sequence
was
of them
fighting the
dying.
fucking big cave troll monsters,
Right,
right?
right,
And I was
right,
like,
right.
I guess it's a good time to go to the bathroom.
Right.
We came back, the introductions were done,
Right.
and they were cutting out of the scene.
Right.
And then I had to be like,
Listen.
this is these 5 guys.
Right,
fucking,
right,
do you know
right.
this from the comic? That's an alternate version of the character. You know, this is a
Yeah.
character from a different movie. And by the time I had like finished explaining
were
it to
all
him,
dead.
they were all dead.
Yeah. It's quick.
They spend so much more time killing them off than they do having them exist.
The killing off is fun.
It's
Fun.
really fun. I mean, Black Bolt's death in particular,
yes.
it's like impressive that like they were allowed to do this in one of these movies. Also just really funny.
funny.
Which
It is funny.
it's when he covers his mouth so
Yes.
he explodes his own head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of
And-
gory.
But like
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
see the like lump of like brain matter like sag down in his mask.
It's fun.
Damn.
It's good.
It's
yeah.
And this is the thing. These little touches. The eyeball coming out of Shumagarath. This stuff.
Raimi loves his fucking eyeballs in places they don't
He does.
belong.
Oh yeah.
And then the final sequence with the zombie, where it's just a little nastier than you normally would see in a kind of movie like this.
I like Derrickson. I like the first Doctor Strange. I think his main priority was how do we make magic look cool, right?
Right. So all
And
the
I think he
hand
did a
gesture
good job,
stuff
and there's sort of the like
Yeah.
Yeah,
fiery
yeah.
ember of
Yeah,
this sort of
yeah.
thing.
The whole like finger
yeah.
thing.
But that movie is really about him trying to develop a visual language of what do spells look like.
Right.
And this movie, from that first action sequence, you're like, Raimi is really thinking like 12-dimensionally about like, if you could do anything, what would you do? So sometimes you make a fucking like Green Lantern construct of like big fists
Yeah.
to punch with or to pick up a lamppost or whatever,
Right.
right? And then sometimes you take fucking music notes. Like,
Well,
it is
okay,
just
all
so
right,
much
okay.
fun
This
to
is the-
watch him. One of our great sort of just innate visual cinematic thinkers, right? A person who thinks in images and motion.
But the musical note battle, which I have to imagine is like the kind of thing he's bringing to the initial pitch, right? Like,
Yes.
here's an idea I have, right? You know, that is the most, like, one of the best action sequences I've seen in a movie recently.
Uh-huh.
No Marvel qualifier.
Hmm.
I was so delighted by that because one, it looks cool, but two, I never would have thought of something
It's
like
clever.
that.
No.
It's so incredibly clever, and it's such a good version of the sort of like, I'm in this room and I don't have a gun. You know, I'll grab a candlestick and try and bash a guy with it. But like 10 levels beyond that, where it's like, well, what if I could pull the musical notes off of that sheet of paper?
Well, it's the thing. I went on a weird rabbit
This
hole.
is the sequences he finds the
Right.
other evil Doctor Strange, and they have a big battle.
I went on a weird rabbit hole for some reason of watching the fucking Green Lantern clips, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like he does the thing that movie completely fails to do, which is like, what makes Doctor Strange powerful is that he's smart enough to think of how to
Yes.
apply
Ryan Reynolds'
his
Green
magic
Lantern
abilities.
just makes like a gun out
Right.
of Green Lantern.
Right, but it's that thing. It's
power.
like, why is
Yeah.
Doctor Strange more powerful than other wizards? Because like
He's inventive.
he's inventive,
100%.
which Raimi is as well.
And of course, like the thing I've noticed about like the musical note battle, which I agree is delightful and such a fun surprise, and the thing that these movies never do, is but I've talked to people who are not like Raimi heads who are more like bigger Marvel fans, and they were just like, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was dumb. It was just like kind of like childish and silly, and I didn't know why it was
How
there.
depressing.
Yeah,
It does have a Dance Dance Revolution vibe.
Sure. Nothing wrong with
No, yeah.
that.
Sounds
And
okay
there's
to me.
nothing wrong with that.
Beyond like just the energy of that and then what follows, it's like a Mission Impossible sequence where Tom Cruise only has a piece of paper to
Right.
defuse a bomb with, where
Yes.
he's like, okay, so I got it down with the musical notes, like, fuck, now I have to get myself to Mount Wundagore to fight. What can I do? And he starts doing the dream walking, right, where he's going to
Right.
possess a body, and like Rachel McAdams is like, don't you need a body possessed? And he's got the zombie corpse
It's so good.
that we've totally forgotten about. I had genuinely
Yeah.
not thought about. And
it's
then
at
you have
night, and like the lightning strikes as the hand.
the
like,
lightning
sticks
strikes,
And the
up
the hand
Elfman
comes
music is
out.
really kicking into like
There's-
Beetlejuice seance.
There's
Yeah.
a crash zoom on the eyes with lights on, with a light on the eyes.
Yes.
And then you've got this wonderful shot of Benedict Cumberbatch in his seance going like this.
Right.
That is so funny and so delightful and so well acted by
Yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch, who is good in this movie.
Yes.
And like it's just the goofiness, real goofiness,
Yeah.
not MCU goofiness of he's right behind me. Isn't he? Like the kind of thing that clearly the people you're talking to are like too goofy for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's like crossing some line that like clearly they mostly don't cross, right?
Yes.
It's like,
I mean, look, we saw this at a critic screening.
Yeah.
So like,
well, we were all clapping and cheering.
this
Yeah.
is what I was gonna say. Like the reveal of the Illuminati members, like that got like a more muted response.
There they
The
all
two,
are, right.
the two moments where I remember the audience like hooting and hollering
Mhm.
were
The zombie.
Well,
No,
well,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, eyes.
The
hand
reveal
going up.
of the zombie.
You could
sure.
feel the energy in the room where people were like, "Are they going to fucking let him do this?"
Right.
And not only are they doing it, but he's setting it up full, like evil.
He's
Ash
got makeup
style.
on.
Right.
You know,
Also,
like yeah.
It's makeup.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's,
like,
it's
that makes
not
a
a
huge
CGI
difference.
monster. It's
And he's
Cumberbatch
doing-
in makeup. He's doing a whole
He's
physical
absolutely
performance.
giving a Deadite performance too. Like
Yeah.
it's specifically, this is how Raimi does. This is what it looks like. This is how you have to move.
And
this is the energy.
Cumberbatch in interviews talks about like Sam Raimi being like, "Yes, what I want you to do," like he
Right.
does imitations of Raimi, clearly explaining the performance to him. Yes,
And they're little touches. A lot of them we've talked about. The other thing I remember the audience like hooting and hollering at was
the sting of the X-Men animated series score when Patrick Stewart shows up. No, what?
I think what you called in a recent video. You did a great video recently, Patrick, on the hula hoop sequence from Hudsucker Proxy.
Thanks. I mean, it's
Great
Raimi season. We all got to talk about it.
You got to watch it. Great
Absolutely.
video, great breakdown of
Written by Sam
one of,
Raimi.
and you sort of break down the fundamentals of Raimi style and that sort of thing. What I think you call the superimposed visual collage.
Yeah.
The thing he does, it's when Mordo is explaining.
Right. A thing that's like there was like a viral tweet where someone was like, "This is the most amateurish transition I've ever seen." Like,
And
go
he's
back to
literally
the early
laying
2000s.
images and cross-fading them, and the music is getting sort of like
Yeah.
Uh,
You remember the audience getting amped about that? That's
yeah.
interesting.
At least
Yeah,
our
yeah,
row was
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're fucking letting him do this.
I
And,
know.
Like, big shout out to Bob Moraski, who like was able to give this the editing rhythms of a Raimi movie.
Mhm.
And the
Especially
construction,
in
the
the-
scene construction.
This is also the first Marvel movie in recent memory where the final act is the best act in any memory, possibly. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. When's the last Marvel movie
Actually-
where you're like it ends best?
I mean, I don't like. Endgame has a fun
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but like
sure.
in terms of not like.
But even Endgame, the time heist is the best part. That's
It
the
is.
middle.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to say it might be the first Doctor Strange.
Which
Because-
has at least an inventive ending.
It's smart.
Right.
The
Yeah,
weird
yeah,
thing, the
right.
first Doctor Strange, Marvel's thing, I feel like it's usually creating like fun, likable characters that we enjoy watching, and then the big set pieces get kind of samey and boring.
Shang-Chi
You know,
syndrome, where you're like, this is an interesting dynamic, and
bunch
it
of
devolves to
monsters
once again
flying
Right,
different
around.
and then
color
Doctor
energy.
Strange is it's like the character stuff is kind of just a warmed over Tony Stark,
Mhm.
but the action scenes and visuals are actually pretty cool and,
Yes.
and innovative. And that third act where it's like, oh, it's like the backwards city being destroyed. It's like him going and like Dormammu and stuff like
Right,
that.
he has to defeat Dormammu through logic.
Yeah.
Right,
Which is
right.
fun.
Fun.
In this, he
Mhm.
dreamwalks, of course, into a dead body. And then a voice goes like, "That is forbidden!" And then there's a bunch of little monsters that show up
Yes.
and start flying around. No explanation. We don't need it. We
Don't
get
need
it.
it.
He did something that violates some sort of, cosmic law.
David, and what happens then? Those little monsters just fly away. They certainly don't cling to his body, forming a demon cape.
But that's what's so good is initially they're a problem, right?
Yes.
And they get, and then like I can't remember who it is. I think it's Wong or something. Someone's like, "Your doctor's no, it's Rachel McAdams."
Yes.
It's like, "You're Doctor Strange," and he's like, "Right, I will use them as a cape to fly."
Yeah.
It's pretty
It
cool.
makes
And
me
then
very
they have kind of
happy.
a stop motion look to them the way
Yes,
they move.
they look like little, Army of Darkness fuckers.
Yes.
Like they look like little, Raimi bastards.
Yeah.
And they're going, which is like the whole time.
But that's why the whole Zombie Strange thing feels like a metaphor for Sam Raimi, like getting his mojo back,
Yes.
And finding a way to I'm going to will this into being my movie.
Right. And like, like I said, America's big awakening is a little whatever,
Yeah.
but it is fun that she's getting motivated by a Doctor Strange zombie that like talks like this,
That's
that
the
looks all
thing.
fucked
It's
up.
just like, he's able to take some of the perfunctory scenes and just make them
It's such an annoying, like the power has
Strange
been
enough.
within you all along,
Right.
but like at least he's saying it from the body of a corpse.
Yes.
Like, yes, that's fun.
right.
But then you have Wanda's big moment, and like I think Elizabeth Olsen plays all this stuff
I do
fine. She's a talented actor.
Yeah.
But like that's where I'm sort of like, it's a little wanting in the larger.
I just don't care about the
sense.
kids that much. And
No,
I feel
they're
kind of
annoying.
bad about that.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't care about the kids, and I think you're right that
I mean, I care about the fact that she likes them. That's good.
But, like,
I'm glad
minute
she feels connected to them.
25 when you're just like, well, now she's gonna have to fucking die at the end of this movie. Like it
That
just
is
feels
the
like
thing,
you're
right? Yeah,
lurching
there's
towards
just
this foregone
There's
conclusion.
no undoing this knot or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
She's totally unredeemable,
Toothpaste out of the
irredeemable at this point. Yes.
Then at the end of the movie, he's like, "Well, I'm Doctor Strange. I'm sure." I actually really like Wong's little line where he's like, "Are you happy, Wong?"
Yeah.
And Wong's like, life throws what it does at me, but I am, I'm feeling okay. It's way better than that. I can't remember
once
how
again,
it goes, but it's a really
right.
nice line that's well delivered.
You're just like, oh, right. That's what they were sort of trying to set up was the thing here. He only meets one Christine. He ends
Right.
on
Look,
fairly good terms with her.
I'm going to defend it. I like the idea of Doctor Strange going to every universe and they're like, "You're an asshole,"
Yes.
which has sort of been the Doctor Strange arc.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, he's like, "I'm an asshole. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of annoying."
This has
I'm
been a
happy
funny
with
thing
that.
because I've been reading a bunch of 70s Doctor Strange comics, and the funny thing there is the Marvel kind of formula is usually okay, it's these superheroes, but they have real personal problems and personal lives, and we can relate to these things. And Doctor Strange doesn't have any of that really.
Yes.
He gives up his entire past life to just be I am just going to be a sorcerer who lives in a house with one man.
Right.
It feels way more like a 30s pulp character than any of the Marvel characters. He doesn't really the appeal of Doctor Strange was never relatable problems
No,
that we all share. It's just he goes to cool trippy visual dimensions.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right, and
He's not a guy who has to figure out his emotions.
The Stan Lee
right.
thing where he'd be like, what's a culture I haven't commented on before?
Yeah.
What's a world I haven't played?
Right.
How we put
He's a West
a
Village
white guy in there.
right? Mysticism, magic, but yes, I think that's one of the reasons why you will rarely meet people who are like, Doctor Strange was my favorite.
But they're out there.
They're out there.
Of course, at the end of this movie, he gets his third eye.
Which is that a thing
Yeah.
in the
Cool.
comics?
Yeah, he's
I mean,
got a
it's
third
cool
eye.
as hell. I'm fucking love to see it.
But Joey, my brother, texted me being like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Nothing. He's
Oh,
just
no.
got more magic power. You can
Yeah.
see into further dimensions."
Also, when
It's
the eye
cool.
opens, there's a fucking guitar stand.
Yeah, it's cool.
yeah,
but
that's
then
cool.
The weird thing
Clea
about
shows up, played by Charlize Theron, and it's one of those things that these movies do a lot, where it's sort of next time he's gonna have a really normal Doctor Strange adventure. We promise.
Right.
He's gonna
Right.
go to the dark dimension. It'll be totally he'll meet fucking Nightmare or whoever.
well, the weird thing with
Eternity, one of those guys.
the thing with the ending is evil Doctor Strange in that one universe has the third eye.
he does.
Yes.
Which seems to indicate he used the dark hold. It took hold of him.
Right.
He's not doing great. He's cursed. And then at the very end of the movie, there's a very Raimi ending where he seems like he's doing fine. He's walking down the street, and then suddenly he writhes in pain, and there's
It's
a big
It's a
sting.
very Raimi ending.
Yeah.
You thought he was in the Clear the Guy's Curse forever.
Exactly. And then suddenly we skip to the mid-credit scene, And oh, never mind. Everything is totally fine. They did the same kind of thing in. I feel like Marvel has gotten lazier with their post-credit scenes. Like
Definitely, they're
Yeah.
definitely at this point. Like, what should I don't know?
It almost always
Harry
undoes
Styles,
the
they're like
ending.
spinning some wheel.
that's the
like, whatever.
it's the same thing in the Eternals one, and it's like, and now a famous person you'll recognize will walk in a
Right.
costume and say, "Hi, I'm the new person you have to know about."
The
now.
Eternal one it's brutal.
Right, just like
It's
go
so
home and
bad.
read my Wikipedia articles so
Right.
you know this stuff for the next one. But like, Clea's cool. Clea's a main part of
Clea's
Doctor
cool.
Strange.
Look,
But like, he meets Clea on an adventure. She doesn't just walk up to him on the street and say, "I'm here now."
if they announced Charlize Theron is going to play Clea in Doctor Strange 3, I go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The way this is set up gives me zero joy or excitement.
Yeah,
Well,
And
I-
it just
I
feels
don't
like
know
it
what you're talking
undoes
about.
the
You should have-
integrity of the movie.
You
Wait,
should have lots of joy for Marvel.
well,
movies.
they do then have
Why
the
aren't you
single
filled
best
with joy?
post-credit scene they've ever done.
It's finished. Is really funny.
can I say, it's the other thing.
Bruce Campbell is the pizza man.
It's
Yep.
the other, for me, missed opportunity of them not jumping to more dimensions is when they set up Pizza Papa, I was like, oh my God, he's going to meet like 10 Bruce Campbells and each one he's going to torture in a different way.
It would be funny.
It would be.
It's
fun.
probably a movie that's longer, but like that would be funny.
Now, can I say, because I know we have to play box office game,
We
wrap
do.
it up. But important thing.
Michael
haven't talked
Stuhlbarg's
about.
performance in this was deeply moving and made you cry.
His agent really did some good work to get
I
him
think
that.
there's
that
some Marvel
and-
sequel thing
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
if they
I was in the
exercise
last one. You give
your
me a
sequel
whiff.
option, because
Yeah.
there's the like Captain Marvel where it's like Jean Manhunsu, Lee Pace, Clark Gregg, all of them have
Yeah.
insane billing in that movie.
Yeah.
But at least like Lee Pace shows up in a dramatically in that. Michael Stuhlbarg is in one. He'd sit in a church
funny.
pew.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's good.
Good wig. I like the bit of just like my little cousin was like, wait, so people know he's Doctor Strange? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, why aren't they asking him questions?
It's a fair question.
Which was smart. And then it's like, watch, hey, George, wait till you fucking see Stahlberg. He's got some questions for this fucking guy. No, I think the last important thing to bring up is, to your point, Doctor Strange isn't fallible, isn't human in that same sort of way. He's sort of icy and detached, but he doesn't have the demons of a Tony Stark, you know? The dead sister thing, which is fascinating because it is so similar to Raimi's own
It
older
is.
brother's death.
When I saw it first, I was like, that's not strange mythology at all. I looked into it. It is.
It is.
There's this sequence where the Doctor Strange, like, prove you're another Doctor Strange.
Right.
And he talks about his sister who fell through the ice. But it's true, of course, that Sam Raimi lost a sibling that way, a brother.
Yes.
I don't know if it's exactly like falling through the ice, but he drowned.
Yes.
Sender? Was that?
It's Sander, I think. Yeah.
And it does feel like something that Raimi is including, you know, as a sort of like, this was because he says like Sander's the one who got him into comic books, right? Is this little homage?
And
It's sort
his
of like
entire
quietly
career
emotional.
is sort of trying to honor Sander in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's also like, oh, we're now on like Doctor Strange appearance number 6 or 7. And you finally sort of found the spine of this guy, which is just like, that was a death he couldn't prevent. And he keeps everyone at a distance
Yeah,
now. And
it's
he wants to
interesting.
exert like high control versus like the what if episode for Doctor Strange
I
on the
didn't-
Disney Plus show
Have not seen.
was what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
Sure.
And their idea is, what if instead of the car accident fucking up his hands, Christine Palmer died,
Right.
and he went crazy trying to find a way to keep
revive
her alive?
Right. Yeah.
Which is like felt like them just teeing up this movie of being like, we need to
An
now make
evil
it seem
Doctor
like the Palmer
Strange.
thing is
right.
the thing that haunts him the most.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think the dead sister thing is a lot more.
I think
effective.
Cumberbatch plays that scene
Really well.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor.
He's a very good.
And he's especially good when I feel like he's being evil Doctor Strange and then being Deadeye Doctor Strange. Like, he's having a blast with those.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
I think it's a good movie, but I also
I
think there's
think
just so
it's-
much bullshit around it.
Yeah, I think it's a mess with some really fun stuff in it.
I mean, at this point,
Whatever, I'm part of the
I would be
problem. What?
kind of excited if they announced that like Raimi's directing Doctor Strange 3, but it's just going to be like, it's not a crossover movie. It's just
Yeah.
I know.
it's just a Doctor Strange movie.
I know.
But I think the fans would be mad, wouldn't they? Or at
yeah.
least some of them would be.
But you know what? They'll still see it and it'll still make $900 million.
It's quite possible. Doesn't really seem like the bloom is off the rose box office wise. Not really.
No. David,
Yes.
if I know you, and I think I know you fairly well.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you've known me for a few years.
Yeah, we're coming up on 10. We're coming close to a decade now of us being friends.
Mm-hmm.
I think next year is our 10-year friendiversary, if I'm doing my math right. The point is, I know one thing about you for dead certain, David.
What's that?
You've looked at your business's hiring from every angle, but yet there's something you feel like you're missing. In your core, David, and I'm reading you. I'm reading you for filth right now. In your core, you know it could be faster. But can I tell you something? You're right.
Ugh. I knew it.
That voice that keeps you up at night is dead right. And you need Indeed. You need Indeed, my friend.
Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. I should have thought of that. Because instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's the powerful hiring partner that helps you do it all.
Sometimes your wife calls out from the other room. The baby's crying. She goes, David, a little help here? You go, excuse me. I'm busy spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills. I don't have the time to help you.
Wow, I come off horribly in that story, but it's true because I wasn't finding great talent faster through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. Because with Instant Match, Griffin, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. That's according to Indeed Data US.
No, David, you need to come off horribly in that story so there's an arc, so there's a space for the character to grow. You're like a dad in a 90s family comedy using a cell phone. You know,
Right.
we're letting the audience know this man has his priorities all wrong. He needs Indeed to remind him what matters in life.
I do, and I could use something like virtual interviews, which saves you time because you can message, schedule, and interview top talent seamlessly all in one place. You don't have to install anything extra. It works from your browser, and you don't need any downloads or plugins or purchases. Most people who've used it said it saved them days of hiring time, according to Indeed Data US.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yep.
And even better, David, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements.
Right. So, look, if you sign up for Indeed now, you'll get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job. Plus, you'll earn up to $500 extra in sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews. Visit Indeed.com/check to learn more. Claim your credits at Indeed.com/check. Indeed.com/check. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed. The box office game is pretty simple.
Okay.
It's just from a few weeks ago, May 6, 2022.
This movie opened to
187.
Yeah, good number.
Yeah, it's
That's
made $930
so
million worldwide.
Yeah.
Number 2 is an animated film.
Number 2 is an animated
that I
film.
think you saw.
I did. I took my cousin George to see it. The nice guys.
No.
The good guys?
Nope. They're not good.
The bad guys.
There you go. Don't really know anything about it.
I'm
You saw it,
evidence
you
of
don't really
how
know much
what an
about it,
impression
right?
it made on me. I will say, just interesting thing about like Marvel Tipping Point. Lucas hated Doctor Strange.
Oh, he didn't like it.
Yeah, halfway through Return to Me, he went, first Doctor Strange is a lot better. And I went,
Sorry, George.
yeah, I went like, this movie's a little confusing, right? And he went, it's not confusing, it's just trash.
Wow.
And afterwards, his big
Wow.
review was,
Did he hold his nose and say PU?
P.U.
Right.
The other thing he did was the scene where Shimmer McGrath, the fucking big fight scene, he like, when they go into that battle, he like wiped like sweat off his brow and went like, whew.
Right.
And I went like, what, you're nervous about this? And he was just like, no, I was worried that he was going to kiss the lady.
Classic.
Can you take him to every movie and just report back?
Yes, absolutely.
But anytime there's kissing, this
And
kid's
then the
gonna like
final
throw a
Christine
Dr. Pepper
Palmer,
at the
like, I'm sorry I
screen.
fucked it up thing. He was like, tell me when it's safe to look at the screen. He was covering his eyes. He was so convinced a kiss was coming.
He's the anti-David.
Yes,
He really
he's
is.
the
I don't like
anti-David.
this kid.
But he just said every Marvel movie is good except for this one.
Whoa.
I don't know if I agree with him on that.
I
point.
don't either, but I
Scorching
just
hot
thought that
take.
was
All
interesting.
right, it is interesting. Number 3 at the box office.
He
is a
loved
film,
the bad guys, though.
is a film that I feel like George has seen. It's a
Sonic
sequel.
2.
Sonic the
He
Hedgehog
also
2.
loves it. He was aghast that I have not seen.
Good movie. Knuckles is in it, for example. One evidence of it being good is that.
Sure.
Um,
Supersonic.
yeah, he shows up.
Yeah.
Number 4 at the box office is a huge hit that everyone liked. No, it's a terrible franchise entry that's probably killed a franchise.
It's a terrible franchise entry.
Probably. I mean, if they announce a fourth one, I really will be like, what are you guys doing?
What
But I watched it thinking like, well, maybe this thing kind of ends with a sort of like graceful note where they could have a sequel if it works, or they could end it here if it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It totally ends on a nothing note. And there's like 2 more movies supposedly going to come.
Oh. Unfortunately, you're talking about The Secrets of Dumbledore.
I'm talking about Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Yes.
Watch it on HBO Max now. Let it slide over you. Right into the garbage. Number 5.
The definition of a jury duty
But I mean,
franchise, where even the people who are invested in it are like, yeah, I gotta go. I got the notice in the mail. There's a new Fantastic Beast movie coming
They
out.
had me for 6 months.
Yeah.
Number 5 at the box office is we mentioned it. Doctor Strange is, a surprise competition in the multiverse,
Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
which is a genuinely delightful success.
Yes.
At the box office.
Yes.
It's made a $63 million domestically, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love it as much as some, but I like it. I want to see it again.
I think it's a pretty fantastic movie.
Yeah.
I also want to see it again. We had a bad experience at the theater with loud people when we saw it, Ben.
Yep.
Which disrupted a little bit.
Which I
Didn't tell
think
them to shut the fuck
heightened.
up.
No,
That's the thing. I think I was like a little more heightened
you were
too.
like,
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad almost now. The more
all
I
right.
tell about it, we don't have time.
It's
but
okay.
anyway.
We don't have time
We
for
all
that.
support you.
All right, good.
We have to do our Raimi rankings.
Oh,
and then
yes.
I'm going to run out of here, and you guys can talk for as long as you like.
Okay.
Oh,
But I
okay.
got to see Elvis.
David has to see Elvis. Another thing, George amped by the Elvis trailer.
Whoa.
Well, he's a star power. The
I know.
guy sang songs.
I know, and then
And you had
afterwards,
to explain the hip swaying thing to him, right?
absolutely
Like, yeah.
didn't know.
Does he
Elvis
know
was a
who
real
Elvis
guy.
is?
No, did not know.
All right,
Wow.
here are my rankings. Number 1, Spider-Man 2.
Uh-huh.
Number 2, Evil Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, A Simple Plan.
Okay.
And then I have number 4, Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Quick and the Dead.
Uh-huh.
Number 6, Spider-Man.
Okay.
Number 7, Drag Me to Hell. Number 8, Army of Darkness. That might be a little low.
Mm.
Number 9, Doctor Strange. 10, The Gift. 11, Spider-Man 3. 12, For Love of the Game.
Mm-hmm.
13, Crime Wave. And Oz sitting there at the bottom.
Wow.
So that's my list. I'm going to go pee.
Okay, David's going to pee. I'm trying to organize this. Patrick, do you have any Raimi submission thoughts as I...
Raimi submission thoughts? Yeah, so I don't have a tight ranking. I didn't come in prepped.
Yeah.
I will say I have the same top 3 as David in a different order.
Mm-hmm.
I
I think that's pretty...
Raimi's like one of my guys.
Yes,
I
yes.
I was very happy to be asked to be on this series. I'm just like ever since I was like, I don't know, 13 or so.
Yeah.
He's been like one of my favorite directors. My top one is Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
Followed by Spider-Man 2, followed by A Simple Plan. Then I think I go Drag Me to Hell.
Oh, sure. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's up pretty high. After that, then maybe Spider-Man 1, then Army of Darkness, then Quick and the Dead, then the first Evil Dead. I don't even know where I am now.
Yeah, you're doing this all off dome. It's
I am.
impressive.
I haven't seen Oz since it was in theaters, and I barely remember it.
It's shit. It should be at the bottom of the list.
We'll put that at the bottom, and then I'll say above that, For Love of the Game, then Crime Wave, then The Gift, then Spider-Man 3, then Doctor Strange. Did I do them all? They're not numbered, but I think I ranked
you
all
did.
of the
I think you
movies.
did.
Am I forgetting one? This is my ranking. I think I have them all. Evil Dead 2, number 1. Spider-Man 2, Simple Plan. Then I go The Evil Dead, Spider-Man, Quick and the Dead, Drag Me to Hell.
We have the same 7 in a slightly different order.
Right. Then Army of Darkness. Then I go Spider-Man 3, rank higher than you.
A little higher.
For Love of the Game,
Oh.
Crime Wave,
Oh.
then Doctor Strange,
Whoa.
Okay, you had the Strange Love.
then Gift and Oz. Am I forgetting anything? No, that's the full list,
There's
right?
14
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
I-
Oz is the pits.
Wait, what about the Quibi show?
Well,
I
With the
never saw
golden
it.
arm.
We
I
don't
never
have time
saw
for
it.
this.
Yeah.
David
No,
has
no,
to go.
you
Okay.
guys talk.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to say, I love Sam Raimi. I think he's really cool, and
I
it's
do
been so
too.
much fun talking about his
I hope
movies.
he's back.
And
I
I
hope he
wanted to
keeps
make another
making
movie
movies.
in a
Yeah.
year or two.
yes.
That's mostly what I want out of this guy.
Yeah, I want him back in the game.
Get your juices flowing, good. Do Doctor Strange, fine. Now give me some movies,
It's the thing.
buddy.
It's like I texted you.
Time's
I was like,
passing.
feels
you know?
like a Raimi movie. That's all you need.
Mhm.
And I was just like, this thing's gonna make a buttload of money, And even if it's a little divisive, there are enough people who are so excited to see him doing his thing again that hopefully that will reinvigorate him and allow other people to give him money to do his thing.
Patrick, it was lovely to see you.
You too.
You guys talk as long as you want. I'll listen to the episode when it posts.
I'll probably wrap it up. Right?
I don't know. I think you guys could talk for 10 more minutes, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay,
Elvis,
enjoy Elvis.
what do we think? What's it gonna be good?
I'm into it.
I hear it's deranged in good and bad ways.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Look, I think we should end the episode.
Yeah. Oh, well, wait. Can I ask one thing?
Anything.
That's not about nerd shit.
Is it
at
about
all?
Ben?
It's about Ben.
What?
Ben, do you have any congratulations shirts I can buy?
Yeah.
Because I see you like once a year, sometimes through like a computer screen, like the first time I was on the show, and I'm very invested in congratulations, and I'm just like, I've wanted a shirt for years.
All right, we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And I swear I'll have stuff online available for
You'll
purchase
set up a Shopify at
some
some
fucking
point.
day. Who
Yeah,
knows?
some
Yeah.
fucking day.
Yeah.
Patrick, Night of the Coconut.
Yeah, I made a movie that also involves a multiverse.
Yes.
With a budget a tiny fraction of what this movie cost. It's out there. It's on the streaming platform Nebula. It comes out. I mean, it is currently available.
It's currently out.
It's very silly.
And people should really watch. I mean, all of your videos, but the Hudsucker one in particular is such a good fucking coda thing. I mean, people were asking us why we didn't do Hudsucker as a bonus episode, or at least that, or whatever.
Because
And
like
it's
you might do the Coens.
we might do the cons, but that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and that sequence is the highlight.
Yeah.
And
We are
it's-
like the two lunatics who are like, Hudsucker, my favorite Raimi. Or my favorite Coens.
It's my favorite. I would never argue it's the best, but it's my favorite, hands
Yeah.
down.
It just like same for me. It's just like it ticks all my boxes for like these little things that just like really connect with me.
Well, and the blank check part of it, where you're just like, I cannot believe they let the Coens build a miniature New York City at this scale.
And the thing that I love is similar to like what happened 5 years later with the Wachowskis. Joel Silver comes in and is just like, I love you and I will protect you and let you do
Anything
whatever
you
you
want.
want.
Right, but like Matrix makes sense on paper as like, if this works, this will be a huge blockbuster. And Hudsucker, you're just like, what's the version of this that you thought audiences would respond to?
It's a movie that has the word Hudsucker in the title.
Yes.
That was never going to be a hit.
What a beautiful film. Too pure for this world. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media, helping putting the show together. AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing. Joe Bowen, Pat Reynolds for our artwork. I can feel my brain starting to shut down. Leigh Montgomery, The Great American Novel for our theme song. Go to blankcheckpod.com for links to all sorts of nerdy shit. Patreon.com/blankcheck for Blank Check special features where we're doing the Batman commentaries. We've already announced this on Twitter, but for people who don't know, next miniseries, Bob Fosse. It's going to fucking rule. And I'll say it. We have insane guest book.
Yeah, it's wild.
Truly, there are going to be a couple stunners. But one of my all-time favorite directors, some of my favorite movies ever made. Really excited to finally talk about them. One I've wanted to do since almost the beginning of the show.
And so far, we've done a few episodes. They've all been a delight.
They've all been a delight. Patrick, I will tell you off mic who we have booked. And do you know one of them? I told you one of them.
No,
right?
you haven't told me any of them, but I have a guess, and we'll talk about it off mic.
Yeah. But gonna be fucking bangers. That's the end of the episode. And as always, I'm gonna put this out back into the universe again. I'm seriously in earnest starting the campaign now. It's not just idle thought anymore. I want to play Herbie in the Fantastic Four movie.
Should we have a dossier queue? Like, dossier time!
Well,
We
that's
should
it.
have one, but
It's
is
that?
it
No, I think it is that.
Yes.